karma with no retreat. Failures never taste the sweet. Science lessons learned in flight. Journey on to endless night. For the stars, we aim so high. The projected kiss goodbye. For science and purple light, we'll keep flying through the light. Rocket launch with hope so grand. EJ's got the master plan. Thrusters burn to reach the moon. In his eye you see the tune. Orbit dreams won't be delayed. Lessons learned from missions made. Kerbal Kai will forge a path to the stars beyond this path. For the stars, we aim so high. The projected kiss goodbye. For science and purple light, we'll keep flying through the light. Rocket launch with hope so grand. EJ's got the master plan. Thrusters burn to reach the moon. In his eye you see the dune. Keep flying through the light.
Space and Rocket Review. EJ's Space and Rocket Review. You two girls, tell your friends. Space and Rocket Review. The Space and Rocket Review has begun. Now equipped with more rhythm and blues. See, I told you, there's more. He almost said now equipped with more riz. No, now equipped with more rhythm and blues. See? When are we getting VTuber Rocket Review stream? Never? Never? Play Freebird? Like that? No. That's good. Oh yeah. Not everything needs to be a cute anime girl. I follow enough of them. I don't really have any desire to be a cute anime girl. To be honest with you, like, but VTubers and stuff. I always get a kick over where yeah. He starts arguing over who wrote Boom Boom in the Street. I wrote that song back in the 50s. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. Boom, 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 boom. Yeah. How. Yay! Alright, that's enough. Speaking of 50s and blues, you used to be Chuck Berry's neighbor. What? I don't know how to play. Whatever. I used to know how to play that. I forget. Some 4 fried chickens and a Coke. And some dry white toast. One Eric Johnson Music Administration. No, ma'am. Dry. Oop. Come on, fingers. That's enough rhythm and blues review. Now it's time for the Space and Rocket review. All right. That's cool, man. Give him the ring-a-ding-a-dinga. Yeah. All right. So, what's going on, everybody? It's March 11th, 2025, and this is the Space and Rocket review, now equipped with 100% more rhythm and blues. Yeah, it's pretty good. Who muted the mic? How did the mic get muted? Anyway, moving on. The guitar muted it? No, I shut the amplifier off. What? How did the... Yeah, I don't have an explanation for that one. Yeah, I don't have an explanation for that. I don't know how that happened. Maybe the suppressor did it? I don't know. Call the Bongulins. I'm stronking. Bames non-stronking the Bongulins. Did Titan bite the cable? No, Titan doesn't chew cables. Anyway, what I was saying is we will recap a little bit from last night. Last night, the Sphere X Falcon 9, the Sphere X and Punch mission for NASA was supposed to launch, and Starlink 12-21 was supposed to launch. They both scrubbed. Yeah, both of them. So they are scheduled for 10:48 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time and 11:10 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time tonight. That's about 6 hours away from right now. Right now. So we got a lot of stream left, first of all. There's 3 Falcon 9s teed up on 3 different pads right now. Thought you guys would appreciate that. Hey, Zelly. Yeah, so SphereX actually scrubbed because of bad weather, but also one of the spacecraft was having a little bit of a problem, so they got a little bit of a reprieve. It was being a little uncooperative. You mean now? When will then be now? Soon. All right. And then Starlink 12-21, yeah, I don't know what happened there. It did scrub, though. But, like I said, we have 3 Falcon 9s on all 3 Falcon 9, active Falcon 9 pads right now. At Slick 40 down at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station, you have Starlink 12-21. On 39A, just a little ways north of Cape Canaveral Space Force Station at Kennedy Space Center, you have the SpaceX Crew 10 Dragon ready to go, poised on the pad. It did a static fire this morning, and they still do static fires for crew missions, believe it or not. And it is ready to go. And then, obviously, we have the SphereX and the Punch mission at SpaceX's West Coast launch site, Slick 4E at Vandenberg. 3 Falcon 9s, 1 crew, 2 cargo, poised on pads, waiting to fly within the next 26 hours. Pretty cool. Tomorrow, I will bring you some pretty good coverage. Crew coverage takes a long time. So I will pick up the coverage when NASA starts their coverage. They're probably going to start like 4 hours early. So yeah, tomorrow will be a lot of space news, a lot of rocket launch stuff, maybe a little bit of gaming. But yeah, we're going to go all the way to the SphereX Punch mission, if it decides to go. I hear the weather in California is not cooperating, but yeah, still cool. Still cool. Yeah, we got, there's a lot of launches happening, and I am here for it, man. Even now, I'm here for it, man. I'm still very glad that SpaceX is going for super heavy at Slick 37. Dude, I didn't even get to talk to you guys about the Giga Bay stuff. I totally forgot about that. Hold on. You know what? You know what, Trey? I'm teeing that up. We are teeing that up for the Starship conversation. The Giga Bay stuff. Oh, dude, we got to read through this on stream. It's a little bit old news at this point because they released it the day they launched, about a week ago. Dude, look at that picture. Oh, boy. Yeah, there's a lot of good information in here about launchpad architecture that we've been kind of looking for. So I'm going to tee that up at the... we'll put that right before this Jeff Faust tweet. Yeah. Yeah. So it looks so good on the issue as a Block 1 ship. Yeah. Anyway, there is a couple of other things I want to talk about before we get to that. Hold on. Something funky's happened on Starbase Live. Give me 1 second. Hold up. Is it supposed to do that? That's Ship 35. Ship 35 is at Massey's doing pressure testing right now. I'm wondering if the crazy amount of vapors coming out of there is supposed to do that. Uh-oh. Is it supposed to do that? Cryo, spin prime, static, spin prime, cryo test. Big tank farm vent. Is that supposed to do that? I don't remember that happening, but then again, I don't watch much cryo tests. I don't think it popped, but yeah. Vapors coming from the tank farm? All right, cool. What the frick? Get out of here. Doesn't look like it's from the ship. It's definitely from the tank farm, yeah. They also have Booster 16 over there at Massey's. It moved there while I was still down there. But yeah, it is over there. Sorry, I saw the vent and I was like, wait, what the hell is that? The hell is it? Anyway. Ooh, you're not supposed to see that till later. All right, let's jump into some space news. So this is coming from a space agency we don't really talk about too much, but this is the Polish Space Agency. The Polish Space Agency president, Gregor Roczna, has been dismissed after a botched response to the uncontrolled re-entry of a Falcon 9 second stage. Huh. The president of the Polish Space Agency, Gregor Roczna, has been dismissed following a botched response to the uncontrolled re-entry of a Falcon 9 second stage that scattered debris across multiple locations in Poland. On the 19th of February, between 4:46 and 4:48 Central European Time, a Falcon 9 second stage underwent an uncontrolled atmospheric re-entry over Poland. The stage partially broke apart during re-entry, with at least 4 fragments surviving and landing in various locations across the country. According to Polsa, one of these fragments landed on the premises of an electrical equipment wholesaler. Okay, we knew about that, and I said it was not cool, because, rockets coming down in populated areas uncontrollably, they got a word for that. It's called missile. Anyway, I don't think this debris knew where it is, though, but it knew where it wasn't, so... Or Poland didn't. Anyway, in a 20th of February statement regarding the uncontrolled re-entry, the Polish Space Agency, Polsa, stated its Space Security Department constantly monitors and analyzes threats in outer space originating from artificial objects, including rockets. It went on to explain that all relevant services and institutions in the country were informed about any potential threats. The statement specifically referenced reports being generated and sent to the Ministry of Development and Technology, the Ministry of National Defense, the Ministry of Internal Affairs and Administration, and the Ministry of Infrastructure, and the Government Security Center. That was a hell of a sentence. However, a February 20th update from the Ministry of Development and Technology disputed Polsa's claim that it had adequately warned the government about uncontrolled re-entry. According to a statement, due to irregularities that occurred in the process of reporting by the Polish Space Agency, the Minister of Development and Technology, Krzysztof Pasik, had urgently summoned the president of Polsa to provide an explanation. The information provided to the public by Polsa did not reflect the assessment of the situation resulting from the reports sent by the agency and could have misled the public. In a 20th of February Polsa update, the agency confirmed that the information regarding uncontrolled re-entry of the Falcon 9 second stage had been sent to the wrong email address at the Ministry of National Defense. Oh no! Oh! Oh! No! Whoops! Further compounding the crisis, the Polish Space Agency was hacked, on the 2nd of March, forcing it to immediately disconnect from the internet. A cybersecurity incident has occurred at Polsa. The relevant authorities and institutions have been informed. Polsa explained in a response to European spaceflight questioning. An analysis of the situation is currently underway to secure the data after the breach. Polsa's network was immediately disconnected from the internet. We'll keep you updated. Polsa's systems were officially restored on the 5th of March in cooperation with services and institutions responsible for cybersecurity. On the 11th, the Minister of Development and Technology announced that Polsa President Gregor Roczna has been officially dismissed. Bro, you sent the war Oh. Yeah, that's should probably get rid of that guy. Wow. Wow. I told you it was contact@poland.com and not support@poland.com. Dang it. Yep. The guy that runs the Polish Space Agency, Big Pooh, got canned because he failed to adequately warn the government of a Falcon 9 second stage that had erroneously deorbited over Poland. He failed to inform anybody about it because he sent the warnings to the wrong email address. So they fired him. I'm not kidding. Poland mentioned. Whoops. Whoopsies. You should have seen there was a problem when no one responded to the email. Right. Big brain on Brad. I guess they send their email. I don't know. This case should be a meeting and not an email. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Anyway, so Rocket Lab has been very vocal about doing Mars sample return in lieu of NASA not knowing how to do Mars sample return. So Rocket Lab has actually put out a video today about a commercial solution to Mars sample return. So we're going to check that out. Let me see, Rocket Guy. Very nice. Okay. Cool. No parachute. He'll buff right out. It'll be fine. Interesting. Block the blader heat shield. Okay, and best part is no part. I mean, the thing's so dang light, Rocket Guy, it probably should slow it down. It'll slow itself down, yeah. Everyone shows capsules going back up. Could a Dragon Starliner sized capsule even get into orbit on its own? On Mars? No, probably not. Rocket Lab. All right. Well, let's read about this here. Bringing Mars to Earth, Solving Mars Sample Return by Peter Beck. This is an opinion piece for Space News. Today we stand on the threshold of one of the most exciting moments in the history of space exploration, bringing the piece of another planet in our solar system back home. NASA's Mars Sample Return mission promises to fill significant gaps in our understanding of the universe and propel humanity forward in a new phase of the space race. Exploring the cosmos isn't just about making new discoveries. It is about improving life on Earth, inspiring a new generation, while expanding business and providing high-paying jobs for scientists and engineers. The United States is a nation dedicated to space exploration, with a storied history of humanity-leading achievements. But if we are to retain this spirit and continue exploring, we must accomplish MSR more quickly and affordably than the current proposed architecture. Planetary science is in the DNA of Rocket Lab. It's what drives us to solve hard problems, to create new and innovative capabilities, and to push our boundaries to reach for the seemingly unreachable. At Rocket Lab, we know a thing or two about our solar system. We've been to the moon. We're building the world's first private mission to Venus. Our solar cells power most interplanetary missions that don't use radioisotope thermoelectric generators, nukes. And just last year, we delivered not one, but 2 spacecraft to NASA destined for the Red Planet. Delivered them. They were supposed to launch on Newglands. From launch vehicles to planetary missions, we're advancing space exploration while adhering to our core belief that access to space will improve life on Earth. It is because of our dedication to planetary science that Rocket Lab has taken such a keen interest in the MSR mission. MSR is the top planetary priority for the scientific community. It represents a bold leap forward for planetary science, marking a key milestone in unraveling the origins of our universe, and advances us towards the goal of sending humans to Mars. Collecting samples from Mars has been a goal since the 1970s, but with ballooning costs and extended delays, the mission is felt just out of reach. Yet the human drive to explore it won't let us fail. Last summer, NASA, realizing the existing mission design was far too over budget, up to $11 billion and behind schedule, returning samples in 2040, announced an independent review coupled with a round of industry studies to look at alternative architectures. In December, NASA announced the result of 6 months of review. NASA wants another year and $300 million to continue studying the problem. Furthermore, NASA proposed 2 broad options it would like to study. Option A, a NASA-led architecture using heritage technology largely identical to the original plan former Administrator Nelson canceled. And Option B, involving commercial partners with more expertise in heavy vehicles and long lead times. Perhaps most importantly, these plans may still return samples as late as 2039 and still cost as much as $7.7 billion based on initial estimates. If the nation is going to get this mission back on track, it will take bold leadership. The path forward is clear. NASA immediately should move to fund the commercial MSR concepts in hand, allowing it to execute Mars Sample Return ahead of schedule and significantly below legacy cost projections. Rocket Lab is ideally positioned to do this. This is why our proposed mission architecture to return samples as early as 2031 for a cost of $4 billion would be under a firm fixed price contract. Rocket Lab's architecture will return all 30 Martian samples being collected by NASA Mars Perseverance using a 3-launch solution that includes a Mars telecommunications orbiter, a sample return lander, and an Earth return orbiter. Unlike the baseline plans, Rocket Lab will perform under a firm fixed-price contracts to ensure cost control and on-time performance. What also makes Rocket Lab's proposal unique is our ability to perform as a single vertically integrated prime contractor, providing all mission elements, eliminating complicated mission management. The architecture leverages our technical expertise to simplify operations with numerous innovative solutions. Our proposal: 1. Uses commercial launch options without the need for complex in-space refueling and avoids complex crew operations to return the samples. 2. Employs storable chemical propulsion for both the Mars Ascent Vehicle and the ERA Earth Return Orbiter using our flight-proven Electron Rutherford engines. 3. Uses heritage engine designs for the propulsion system of the lander. 4. Incorporates proven Mars entry aeroshells and supersonic parachutes. 5. Supports precise landings with terminal guidance systems and landing algorithms derived from lunar landing missions. 5. 5. Simplifies robotics for the sample transfer arm, ensuring efficient movement from Perseverance to the Mars ascent vehicle. 6. Adopts a single stage-to-orbit Mars ascent vehicle, eliminating the need for the multi-stage solid propellants and complex ejection systems. 7. Uses in-house solar power systems, avoiding the use of nuclear power. 8. Integrates Mars technologies in collaboration with NASA, focusing on thermal protection, entry, descent, and landing systems, and contamination control. 9. Uses heritage deep space communication and navigation systems, leveraging our relationship with Johns Hopkins Applied Physics Laboratory and the Rocket Lab manufactured Frontier radios. 10. Simplifies robotics for the sample capture, containment, and return systems and uses heritage rendezvous, proximity operations, docking sensors, and algorithms. 11. Implements a direct entry, parachuteless impactor Earth entry system for Earth return. When the space shuttle was retired, America didn't turn to a NASA-led development program to get humans back into space. Yeah, they didn't have a choice. Some moron made that choice for them. Instead, NASA took advantage of America's greatest resource, leveraging ingenuity in the private sector. I'd like to remind everybody at this time that the space shuttle was manufactured by a private company for NASA. Anyway, NASA should take this model for success and leverage the commercial sector in the science portfolio so the agency can maximize the value of every taxpayer dollar invested. Hard disagree, but in this context, yes. This article's a lot better than the Stoke article. Dude, this is way easier to read because this was written by Peter Beck. And Peter Beck is in fact not a machine. Would Rocket Lab's MAV make the fuel on Mars, or would they have it on day one? Storable propellants, have it on day one. And while Mars sample return will be a milestone for humanity in its own right, it's only the beginning. The technologies that we are developing for this mission are essential building blocks for the next great step, sending humans to Mars. We must be relentless in our pursuit of this important mission, which means it's time to try a drastically different approach. Sir Peter Beck is the founder, president, and chief executive officer of Rocket Lab, a NASDAQ-listed leading launch and space systems company opening up access to space to improve life on Earth. Rocket Lab's capabilities span the space economy, including satellite design and manufacture, industry-leading spacecraft software and components, and reliable launch services. Well, I slightly disagree with Peter Beck because I don't think that NASA should have commercialized everything, and I think that's a really big mistake. But in the case of Mars sample return, well, that ship sailed already. NASA should hire Rocket Lab to do this. Yep, that's what I'll say. Yep. I'm a little weary of firm fixed price for a mission with this kind of depth, but I think Rocket Lab has the chops to get this done. Let me put that way. They should do that. It's interesting that Rocket Lab's plan doesn't include the European Earth Return Orbiter. Has the ESA committed to building that yet, or is there still room to cancel it? I have no idea. Yeah, Rocket Guy, I would like to see everybody else's architecture, because there's clearly some front-running bidders for Mars sample return, SpaceX and Blue being two of them. So, we'll see. With that being said, I don't really mind Rocket Lab's architecture. It looks pretty damn good. Yeah, it looks pretty good. Random off-topic question about space. Okay. Do you think SpaceX should do a Venus flyby mission? I would love to see human flyby missions of Venus. If Starship does what we're thinking it's going to do, Trey, that should just kind of happen. Yeah. For comparison. Oh, NASA's architecture right now. See, the thing about NASA's architecture with how they wanted to do Mars sample return, the option A thing, the legacy thing, is that NASA is basically hitting the copium really, really hard. They want to do this architecture that requires putting like 40 tons down onto the surface of Mars. and then bringing it back up. The problem is that the heaviest thing that we've placed down on the surface right now of Mars with technology that we know, right, is Perseverance. Perseverance is nowhere near, it wasn't 40, it was 20 tons. Perseverance is nowhere near 20 tons. You try to land something that's 20 tons on the surface of Mars with our current Martian entry, descent, and landing technology, it will crash. The heat shield isn't big enough, the parachutes aren't big enough, and we know from the commercial crew program that re-engineering parachutes takes a lot of time and a lot of money. NASA's basically designing this sample return architecture with the expectation that they can put 20 tons down on the surface of Mars. And they absolutely can't. They're basically designing a Mars sample return without a Martian ascent and descent vehicle and going from there, which I think is, like I said, that's pretty dumb. Yeah, that's a pretty stupid way to do that. Yeah. They need, in order to do a Mars sample return with the stakeholder expectations that NASA themselves have sent, they need to be able to have a Martian ascent and descent vehicle, something that can go down to the surface and come back up. Yeah, they don't have that. They don't have anything close to that. So the solution was to land a launch pad that had a solid rocket, a 2-stage solid rocket booster down on the surface. SRBs was the solution there. That's why $11 billion is a thing, because you have no lander. That's why this program is carrying such a crazy budget, because you have no lander. You have nothing to move a launch pad down to the surface. You don't have a LEM. You don't have something like that. You don't have an MADV, and you need that. That's why the budget ballooned on that program, because they were designing an architecture around a lander that didn't exist. Still doesn't exist, by the way. What about a modified X-37? What's an X-37 going to do, Zabaski? You need a runway for that thing to land correctly. Mars doesn't have that. How does lofted factor into that? What was the LEM's mass? 16 tons, Yard. I'm not even sure the LEM could do it, dude. Here, hold on. I just want to view the image. I don't... Why? Give me one moment. I'm typing in Delta V map and it's just all Kerbal. Take a look. 3.8 kilometers a second for Mars. 1730. There's no way the LEM could do it, dude. Not a chance. The LEM could land, you could land the ascent module down onto the surface of Mars, but then again, you could aerobrake too, which case you need a heat shield. And then maybe. The LEM could be you could use it as a 2-stage ascent vehicle, but yeah. You were more asking because it's probably the heaviest object we've landed on another body. Yeah, the LEM is by a long shot, dude. Yeah. Perseverance is amazing, but it's nowhere near the mass of the LEM. What is the mass of that bad boy? Give me one second. It weighs a ton. Is it? But what? Uh, Sorry. Sorry. I don't know why I did that. Anyway, so yeah, honestly, in this context, I think that Mars sample return is, yeah, a commercial. Rocket Lab's proposing. What did they propose? Hold on. $4 billion on a firm fixed price and gets in sample return as early as 2031. Yeah, that is more in line with where it should be, in my opinion. But Skycrane altogether used was 4 metric tons with the rover. Yep. They landed the X-1 plane in the desert on skids. Yeah, Zubaski. Okay, I'm not sure you understand. Mars does not have as big of an atmosphere as Earth's. In fact, it has pretty much nothing compared to Earth. Because of this, you can use a heat shield. They do use heat shields to land on Mars, but something like the X-37 is not going to fly on Mars. It's not going to do that. So you also need a runway. So maybe you modified your X-37 to land on skids, provided you could even land, right? Mars doesn't have air. It doesn't hit nowhere near the same amount as Earth. Maybe like 1% of our atmosphere, maybe. Now that's enough to slow down with like a heat shield and maybe use some parachutes, etc., but it isn't enough to sustain lift, right? So you land your X-37 on a find a flat spot and you land it on skids, etc. Okay, how does that get back up? I don't think you're understanding the requirements here of this mission. Now, don't get me wrong. Do I want to see an X-37 on the surface of Mars? Sure. That would be super cool. I'm not sure what you'd do with it from there, but it'd be super cool to see. Rocket guy, atmosphere, you're saying atmosphere on Mars is a perfect storm of bad for entry, descent, and landing problems. Its atmosphere is too high to require heat shielding, but way too low to slow down via parachutes or to have effective flying vehicles. Yep, it would almost be better if it wasn't there. Anyway, I think Rocket Lab has the chops to do something like this, and I think they should. That's a pretty cool proposal from Peter Beck. I think NASA should consider it, and I don't know if they probably are, but anyway, little bit more Rocket Lab news here. Viasat and Rocket Lab partnered to showcase on-demand, low-latency data relay services for low Earth orbit satellites with Viasat. Interesting. It looks like Rocket Lab is partnering with Viasat to make a potential Starlink competitor. Pretty cool. Nice. I'm worried about the litho breaking, but otherwise I'm all for it. What? Why? Why are you worried about litho breaking? Something flatellite. Yeah. Contract services, creeper. Yeah, you noticed that, huh? With the flattellites, yeah. Right, guy, you said on Saturday with the release of Rocket Lab's flattellites that they have to be doing this for a commercial partnership. Yeah, I disagree on that. Yarg, you disagree with Rocket Guy on that, okay? Right? Its density is low enough that you do not substantially make liftoff more difficult like Earth, but it can be used to shave significant delta V requirements to land. Okay. All right, then where's your proposal, bud? I'm waiting on it. Where's your proposal, son? I'm not sure NASA's going to get enough funding at the moment. Oh, I have some news for you, Teague. It's curious news. You might appreciate it. But I have a couple more things to share before that. I was disagreeing with you saying it would be better if it wasn't there. Yeah, I said it's almost better if it wasn't there, if I'm remembering correctly. But, yeah, I see Racket Yard moment. Did you see Rocket Lab is in agreement to acquire Minaric Laser Comms, a Minaric Laser Communications company? No, David, I didn't, but that's very interesting. Rocket Lab's going hard with those flatelites. They're going to make a Starlink competitor, and they're the only ones that I've seen that have the chops that can actually do it. Aside from maybe Blue Origin. What is this? A stack of flat pack satellites? Wow, it's 1995 Orbcom all over again. Oh my goodness. Dude, Pegasus.
Discovery, go at throttle up.
Captain Jack 39137. Hey, I saw an ad on your channel. I almost puked. Much deserved, man. Keep it up. Oh, thanks, dude. Thanks. That was a Orbcom satellite from the 90s, I guess, with a magnetometer attached to it, or some type of antenna. Interesting. All right. So the next tweet is coming from, or the next bit of news is coming from the Space Force here. So Vandenberg Space Force Base leadership and project managers symbolically begin construction during a groundbreaking ceremony at Slick 3. This project will enhance lightning detection for safer, more efficient launch operations. ULA retweeted that, saying, Vulcan launches will benefit from the new and improved lightning detection system, providing enhanced critical infrastructure and safety for ULA and our customers. Oh, it looks like they're putting in a lightning arrestor at Vandenberg. So Vandenberg's going to have the lightning towers just like Slick 41 does. And Slick 40 for that matter. And 39B. Interesting. U.S. Space Force Colonel Mark Shoemaker. Space Launch Delta 30 Commander. Middle, alongside Vandenberg Space Force Base leadership and project managers, symbolically begin construction during a groundbreaking ceremony at Slick 3 to mark the beginning of the Vandenberg atmospheric detection of an electrified range project at Vandenberg Space Force Base. The project will undergo the release of 14 electric field mills across the base to enhance lightning detection for safer, more efficient launch operations. Oh, so not towers like you see at the Cape, but field mills. Okay. Okay, the X-37 won't be able to take off, but if Mars does get a runway, a space plane might be the best solution to go there and back. Yeah, Zubaski, maybe in the long-term future, absolutely. What are you using to build the runway? An ascent and descent vehicle? That takes off and lands vertically? I mean, you're not wrong, but if you're engineering the vehicle to build a runway for a vehicle that goes up and down, you need a vehicle that goes up and down. See what I mean? Send one ship to crash hard enough to smooth out soil for a runway for the next vehicle. I'm gonna keep doing the space news here. if you don't mind. So show the Rocket Lab engine again, please. I don't. All right. What are we looking for in this video? Joshua, you said you wonder if spin launch is banking on being used off planet. I just wonder if spin launch is banking, period. Because, yeah, we haven't heard a peep from them in a very long time. The new engine they just built, was that Rocket Lab? No. Relativity. Yeah, spin launch did have the satellite that can be spun really, really fast. Which is cool. If you're not talking about that video, yeah, it was Relativity from yesterday. Anyway, I have an interesting bit of space news for you guys. Very interesting bit of space news. So, I've had this theory, and people have called me a nut bar, more so than normal. I have this theory that, you know, the current president of the United States wants Jared Isaacman to run NASA. Now, everybody's been kind of speculating that, you know, they're going to go in there and they're basically going to just get rid of NASA, right? I honestly don't think that that's what's going on. I think there's a little more subtleties to it. It is rocket science after all. I've had this theory that Rook is going to get in there and fix things. My opinion is that I think that SLS should launch more, not less. I think it, at this point in time, and I probably wouldn't have said this in the past at all, like, you know, no, I've been saying this for a long time, never mind. At this moment in time, it would be really, really good to launch SLS more and take advantage of it while we have that technology before NASA comes up with something better. Or Starship comes along and does its thing. We've paid a good amount of money, and we have an operational super heavy launch vehicle. Artemis 1 flew in 2022, and it was amazing. Right? So, what I think Rook is going to go in there and do is fix things. I think he's going to fix things. Right? I think he's going to get the Artemis program running more like the Apollo program, which means running NASA more like SpaceX. Some people might have problems with that. I don't. I think that's a good idea. To be 100% honest with you, if I was administrator, that's what I would do. Right? Now, with all that being said, the previous administrator was Bill Nelson, right? Who's been kind of just status quo, just going with the flow, right? The guy before him, from the current president's first term, was a guy by the name of Jim Bridenstine. Jim Bridenstine did start to do this in his term as NASA administrator. He started to clean up shop with the SLS program and actually got us an Artemis 1 launch because, honestly, if he didn't go in there and crack the proverbial whip, Artemis 1 probably would have happened in like 2024. Instead, we got it a lot sooner because basically Jim Bridenstine went in there and told Boeing to pull their head out of their tail, which they have, basically. We have engines being produced for SLS. We have SRBs being produced. We have a core being stacked right now in the VAB. Believe it or not, SLS is working. I'd say SLS is working just fine, and all it needs to do is just ramp up at this point. Now, the Orion capsule is a little bit of another story, but I want to focus on Jim Bridenstine here for a second. I think Jim was an amazing NASA administrator. He did very good. Jim Bridenstine, what he does right now, amongst other things, is actually, he's a major lobbyist for SLS itself, on top of being on the board of a couple of different aerospace companies. I think Jim is good people, and I think he did a damn good job. Now, if Jim is such a big SLS guy, why would he say this? Look, so this is coming from the SAT show, a session at the satellite show, which is a big kind of convention for, you know, satellite manufacturers and stuff. Jim said this about Jared Isaacman being, you know, hopefully getting in as NASA administrator. He said he has all the tools to be a great NASA administrator. Former NASA administrator Bridenstine says in a session at SAT show, he asked the Senate to confirm him quickly. He just wanted to launch American astronauts from American soil with American rockets. Now, look at that. Look at that and consider what I said about Rook going in there and fixing things. Why would Jim say that? Guys, I honestly don't think we have much to worry about here. And it seems like my suspicions in this matter might have been more or less on the money. Don't get me wrong. If I'm incorrect about this, I will let you know. Probably that Space News, if they did, you know, if they ended up, you know, getting rid of the Artemis program, I would have a short circuit, and that Space News would probably be the last Space News I do for a very long time. Let's hope that day never comes. But I don't think that that's what's going to happen. Look at this. Look at what he said. Why would a major lobbyist of SLS be endorsing Jared Isaacman for NASA administrator? Why would he do that if there even was a remote potential that the rocket that he is currently getting paid lots of money to advocate for was on the chopping block? Why would he do that? SLS Polaris missions around the moon free return. Yeah, SLS Polaris missions around the moon free return. Yeah, Goalie, they got a word for that. It's called Artemis 2, and they don't need a private company to help. They're just doing that, remember? He's looking for a SpaceX board seat. Jim Bridenstine is? I thought my theory was nuts, Soapbox. Jeez. No, I say this is good news. Jim wouldn't do that. He wouldn't endorse him unless he knew what the plan was. And considering he's a huge paid advocate for SLS, he's a lobbyist for SLS, he would not give an endorsement unless he knew that the rocket that he's advocating for is going to have a future. Does that make sense? Now, once again, you could say I'm crazy. It's fine. You could say I'm nuts. Probably right. And if I'm wrong, I'll be the first one to say. But also at the same time, this bodes extremely well for my, for the kind of theory that I have about the Artemis program getting fixed. You need more crazy theories, not less. All right. Crazy. I was crazy once. I take Bridenstine over Elon as head of SpaceX, but that's just you. To which their own, man. I assume Jim knows more than we do. Dude, Raiden, he would not endorse Isaacman if he knew Isaacman was going to cancel the rocket that pays his paycheck. Does that make sense? He wouldn't do that. He wouldn't do it. I'm sorry, guys. That's like pretty damn concrete for me. Now, don't get me wrong. It's still like, that's concrete for me. But you know, if you're skeptical, yeah, it could still get it. NASA could still get the axe, and that's unforgivable in my mind. But I really, really don't think that that's what's going to happen. I really don't. Jim still works for NASA? No, Jim is a lobbyist. He's a lobbyist for SLS, for Boeing. Sea Kraken. Yep. How often do you update the workers and resources playlist on YouTube? It should be fairly up to date, Warlord. Why? What is it up to right now? Is the Space Force part of NASA? No. The Space Force is a branch of the Department of Defense, serving under the Department of the Air Force. Moon by 2028, Mars by 2032. That's what I want. Well, Trey, that's what I'm talking about here. Guys, all right, just in case anybody is wondering, I'll let you know what I think about this, like, just in case you haven't heard it. So, everybody thinks that Jared Isaacman is going to get in there and Elon Musk is going to use him as a sock puppet to basically get rid of all the crappy government programs and basically just use all SpaceX stuff. First of all, there's, like, several reasons why that's a really stupid thing to say. But yet we see that get thrown around like that's gospel for whatever reason. I really don't understand where people are getting that from, but hey, whatever. Now, that's what everybody thinks is going to happen. I don't think that's going to happen. Personally, I think that Jared Isaacman was nominated to go in there to run NASA like a business, something he has pretty good acumen in, all right? He's a bit, he runs Shift 4. He's run multiple companies successfully. Rook has also run a company that was a government contractor, so he's good at dealing with procurement of government contracts. He ran Draken, which dealt with the Department of Defense as a private aggressor squadron to train Air Force pilots. So he's good at dealing with DoD contracts. He's good at dealing with DoD contracts, therefore he's good at DoD contract procurement. Well, not necessarily procurement. It's a little bit one-sided on there, but he has experience dealing with the government. He has a very good business experience here, running aerospace programs, right? And he's also been, he's been to space. Guy's EVA'd, first commercial EVA ever last year, right? I think that I don't think that Rook is going to go in there and cancel everything. I think he's going to fix everything. Think about his job in a similar manner as what Kelly Ortberg is doing with Boeing. Boeing, for whatever reason, the board at Boeing decided to pull their head out of their tailpipe and hire an engineer to run the company for a change, which is, interesting concept. Engineer to run your aerospace engineering company. All right. So I think Isaacman is going to do basically what Kelly Ortberg is trying to do with Boeing. I think that he was picked with the express intent of getting the lunar program on track and getting it running on a regular schedule. Now, the reason why I think this is going on is because I think if he does get nominated, he's going to fix the Artemis program, and they're really going to start championing the sequel to the Artemis program, which kind of doesn't really have a name right now. It's just called Moon to Mars. Right? They're going to champion the Artemis program, get us sustainably on the moon. I've often detailed the mission architecture, saying 4 SLS flights a year. 4 SLS flights a year for the next 10 years. Perfect. That's perfect. In 10 years, with the SLS flights, all the supporting infrastructure should be in place so you could run commercial logistics operations to and from the moon to sustain your moon base. So 4 SLS launches over the next 10 years. I'm calling for 40 SLSs. That's the architecture that I think is a good idea. Now, with that being said, if he does that, I think what NASA is going to do is really put an emphasis on Mars. On top of fixing the Artemis program. You're going to open up Artemis 2, Artemis Boogaloo, going to Mars, Artemis style, right? Now, why? Why would you do that on top of it? Well, if Rook fixes the Artemis program and gets the Artemis program working correctly, and on top of that, champions a Martian exploration program with SpaceX kind of, at the helm with Starship, you potentially have the opportunity here of having a very, very healthy and robust lunar program and a very, very healthy and robust Martian program as well. If you play your cards right, you can get 2 space programs for the price of, I don't know, let's say 1.5, because SpaceX actually knows how to run a space program correctly. Anyway. So that's my opinion. That's what I think is going to happen. I think that Rook is in a very interesting position to be able to champion a lunar program and a Mars program at the same time and not really have it cost copious amounts of money. I think it's a very interesting concept. And everybody's called me nuts up until this point, right? But this tweet came out today. And this seems to be trending in the direction of me being on the right side, like the correct side of things here. If I'm understanding this correctly, and I'm trying to use all information involved to get a good grasp on what, Rook is going to do when he's in there at NASA as NASA administrator. And now keep in mind, we can't predict the future. We don't know. We'll have to wait and see what happens, right? But this reinforces my theory that the Artemis program is not going to get canceled. It's going to get fixed. All right? The contracts are going to get refactored, and the whole program will transition to a higher launch cadence instead of development. That's my guess, which is a good idea because this dirty little secret here is that higher launch cadence can allow you to expand your architecture quickly here. It's almost like you got to launch rockets to make better rockets, but whatever. SpaceX clearly understands that pretty dang well. It's NASA that doesn't understand that right now, and that's what I think Isaacman is going to fix. Now, with all that being said, look, that's Jim Bridenstine. He was the NASA administrator for the current president's first term from 2016 to 2020. He was the NASA administrator then. He fixed a lot of things with SLS. He got SLS running. He got the first SLS actually off the ground because of the changes that he made to the contracts. Jim Bridenstine now is a lobbyist for Boeing. He's a lobbyist for SLS. A lobbyist for SLS would not be endorsing a NASA administrator potential or a nominated NASA administrator with the potential of canceling the program he's advocating for. That's not happening. So this tells me that the program getting axed is unlikely. The program getting fixed is much more likely at this point. So, I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but ding ding, looks like I might have been right about this. Not being political, but Rook being a good businessman going in to sort things out, and EJ's theory is just... Yeah, Pat, I won't finish that. But yeah, I read it. Yep. What do you think about the rumors that NASA's science budget is being put on the chopping block soon? So I knew that this conversation would inevitably lead to that, Lazarus. I knew somebody was going to ask me. A couple people have asked me in Discord DMs already. Guys, all right, look. After the whole Elon fiasco cursing out astronauts on X and stuff, I really don't feel like the need to comment on any of this stuff. I really don't. What I will say about that with the science budget, like I really just don't feel like dipping into the politics of this, because anything until Jared Isaacman gets confirmed is pretty much static, just static background noise, in my opinion. I think that's pretty fair. Now, Laz, with all that being said, I have not heard one concrete source here that says that. All of the rumors about NASA's science budget being axed is just that, rumors. It stems from an Ars Technica article that has no concrete source. Eric Berger in that article didn't even write sources say. He just heard it from a guy who heard it from a guy who potentially heard it from somebody walking around in the White House when they were in the toilet taking a dump. I'm serious. Go read the article. That's basically what he says. Except for the dump part. But you get the idea. Guys, I really honestly and truly do not think that's going to happen. I think the science budget will get trimmed, just like everything else. That's what happens when you refactor contracts. I don't think the science budget is getting cut in half. I really, really don't. Yeah, Jack, that's another good point. Yep. No, I'm serious. Go read that Ars article. That was the first time I saw anybody say anything about the science budget getting axed. And now, here's the thing. We know pretty dang well that when Eric Berger cites an anonymous source, that source is usually good. It's usually good. But he doesn't even cite a source here. He cited a guy that was a press secretary for a janitor that worked at the White House or something. I'll come up with my 6 degrees of separation. I'm serious. Go read the article. There's not even a sources say this. It's just, I heard it from a guy who heard it from a guy. And he managed to write a gigantic article about it. Now, here's the thing. I'm not going to rule out either that, that he's full of crap. That might be what's going on. I don't think that's what's going on, to be 100% honest with you. I really don't. I think that people are getting worried because they're going to trim programs. Right? Now, I know what people are going to say. But EJ, isn't trimming programs bad? Well, yeah, of course. If you're going to refactor contracts, right? Of course it's going to all sound bad, because that means you're basically taking everything that's on the table and wiping it off the table and starting over. So programs getting canceled, right, is what people hear. I'm going to cancel the program and refactor the contracts for procurement so we actually have a healthy space program. If somebody says that, all somebody hears that overhears this said like proverbial conversation is, oh crap, they're going to cancel everything. That's what I think is going on. That's my honest opinion. I could be wrong. I really don't think I am. I don't see why you would do that. That doesn't really make a lot of sense. Yeah, Lazarus, I'm kind of with you on that one. What if it were cut in half but redistributed to the lunar and Mars budgets? Yarg, as screwed up as it is, I'd be kind of okay with that, but the Science Mission Directorate is one side of a two-sided coin with human exploration operations, okay? HEOMD and SMD are not one or the other. They're two sides of the same coin. You can't separate one from the other. In fact, they need to be integrated together to make a healthy and sustainable space program. Right? If you don't have them two working together, then you are basically undoing the thread that holds the space program together and makes programs easy targets for being canceled. That's why I had such a big problem with Viper getting axed, because some bonehead at NASA decided it was too expensive, arbitrarily, might I add. Right? Because that mission is... The Artemis missions are dependent on that mission. And without that dependency, that makes programs a lot easier to axe. Okay? Now, thankfully, I don't think that's going to happen at this point. There's been a slight change in the political winds over the last, 4 months. Right? I'm not ignorant to it. I know what's going on. I just don't want to talk about it. Right? So, I think getting rid of the science budget and redistributing it to HEOMD is a bad idea. That's not how you should do it. They need to work together. The science missions need to reinforce the human missions. If they don't, then there's no point for the science missions. Viper mentioned if that was on your bingo card, there you go. Do you worry that Elon's behavior, not going to judge, it may backfire on SpaceX sometime in the future? No. No, Scott, not at all. I think his companies are, if you really want my honest opinion, I think Tesla and SpaceX are a little, not aimless here, but those companies have him at the helm and he's busy doing Doge things, right? Like, I'm not going to say that either company is going to flounder. I'm just saying I don't think the guy really has a lot of time to run these companies. Now, thankfully, Gwen can run SpaceX. That's fine. And Tesla will be fine. Like, I'm not too incredibly worried about it, but those companies are there and in the positions that they're in because of his tenacity in the matter. Whether it be electric car production or, reusable rockets, right? I don't think that necessarily SpaceX is reeling or Tesla is reeling. That I just think there's a potential that they could without his leadership. But guys, if we're really going to talk about this, keep in mind that Doge is a temporary thing. It's not going, it's literally gone in the summer. So take that information for what it's worth. Seriously, they made it a 6-month project, basically. Is it next summer? Oh, sorry, excuse me. It's 18-month project then. His leadership is one thing, but his money he puts into SpaceX, believe me, SpaceX has a lot of private capital behind it, Scott. I wouldn't worry about it. Not a lot of people know Google is an investor for SpaceX. Google. Take that information what you will. Not a lot of people know that. Google has deep pockets, dude. I wouldn't worry about it. John Google himself. Yep, he's best friends with Tim Apple. And Bill Microsoft. Oh, yeah, Hellfish. There's also that. But yeah, I'm never the smartest person in the room. I'm so relieved. Yeah. And Leroy Jenkins. Yep. Poor Bill Microsoft. Yep. Mark Meta Zucker Meta. Mark Facebookberg. I don't know. It doesn't work as well with that. Anyway. And a lot of them lost value today. Yeah. I mean, David, yeah, they've lost value, but okay, so Elon's net worth is down from like 440 billion to only 400 billion. What are we going to do? SpaceX is going to run out of money. Can you hear the seriousness in my voice? Oh no. Gaben Valve Gaben. Yep. So, and Rex Hamilton as Abraham Lincoln. That's right. It's pretty rarely for real. Yeah, Wiz, I'm worried about, Elon's crazy stakeholder expectations are what made SpaceX manifest this gigantic steel tube that we saw launch into space last week, right? Like, the guy's hellbent on going to Mars, and hopefully there's enough people at SpaceX. I think there's enough people that quote unquote believe in that vision, right? So I think SpaceX will be okay, but like in the long term, I'm pretty sure. I mean, he shouldn't spend too much time away, but hey, whatever. if anything, SpaceX has shown that, you know, it's doing all right. Not to space. I mean, it kind of got near space. Does that help? Jeff Amazon. They seem pretty worried about Tesla. I don't know, Ben. Maybe. Dude, the Tesla side of things I can't really comment on, dude. I don't know enough about that. The SpaceX thing, though, I think SpaceX will be fine. SpaceX is pretty much revenue positive with Starlink. I really think it's not a big deal. Yeah, they figured out a way. They'd almost be revenue positive with Falcon if they weren't working on Starship, which is crazy. Like, think about that. Falcon 9 basically pays for itself with all the contracts they have. At this point, did they make their money back on Falcon? Probably not. They're probably not broken even on it. But what they did get out of that deal is a bunch of engineers that know how to land things. How to make rockets that can land, right? That's what they did get out of that deal. And that, coupled with the revenue from Starlink, right, is enough to sustain the Starship program, which is well in the red for development right now. Most rockets are, at least initially. Like Starship is not making any money, right? It's a money sink at this point. Not, you know, saying it's a money sink kind of implies a negative connotation there, but that's not what's going on. Starship is being rapidly developed. But between the revenue and the technical expertise at SpaceX, the revenue from Starlink and the technical expertise, I think the Starship program can go for a long time. Yeah, it can go for a long time. The goals have been set. You know? Every Starship you were at that tried to go to space blew up. I think you're the problem. No, I didn't wear my Dragon shirt. That's the problem. Every other Starship flight, I've worn the Dragon shirt. And it's worked. Well, worked. Flight 1 was akin to working, let's say. It was akin to working. It kind of worked. It was, you know, kind of worked. You know, it's fine. Next time I go, I'm bringing the Dragon shirt with me. Working adjacent? Yeah. It was adjacent to working. It was close. Except when the HPU blew off the side of Super Heavy. At that point, you know, it was going up. Does that help? 95% go for Crew 10 tomorrow. Nice. It worked until it didn't. Technically, it just kept working until physics decided it didn't. Yeah, stress test. That's a good enough way to say that. Sure. Maybe the banana in the dispenser was missing. Oh, of course, it's not going to work that way. My blessing on flights have a limited reach. Mm-hmm. I'll accept the t-shirt excuse, though I'd still have Das sacrifice a goat with Space Pope on the roof of Margaritaville just to be safe. What the frick? Space Pope could just bless the trench. That's fine. Yep, I do have 100% on booster catch. That's right, Triad. Mm-hmm. I don't think the SpaceX value goes down, even with Starship tests going like they do. Starlink is the big moneymaker, like you said. Investors see the monopoly. Bingo, Orange. Yeah, I'm pretty sure these companies can, you know, they'll reel if, you know, without Elon in the long term. But for right now, they're fine. They're really fine. You know, people saying like, oh, Tesla's losing money. Everyone's losing money right now. Yeah, that's just, the market is going down right now. But if I'm understanding this correctly, I'm not an economist. There are stock market streamers out there that you should go follow if you want good advice about this. Please do not take this as any type of particular financial advice. I have no idea what I'm talking about. With that all being said, the market is trending down because of speculation over the tariffs, right? That's what's going on. Like, the market is getting volatile because of an uncertain future because of the tariffs. It'll go up, it'll go down. There's ebbs and flows to it, guys. I wouldn't worry about it too much. I mean, If it keeps going down, then we got a big problem. But yeah, keep in mind, there's elasticity in capitalism. It goes up and it goes down. That's the ebb and flow of it. It's like a tree growing in the, spring and then losing all its leaves in the winter. There's ebbs and flows to it. Was that not implied, Sly Mango? Or am I... Anyway, you guys have all seemed to misunderstand that me trying to give an economic lesson about markets here as an excuse to weigh in on how you do or don't like the president. I didn't ever remember asking for anyone's opinion in this matter. But, yep, there it is. There it is. Curious. Yes. Provocative. Anyway, it's very clear that people are trying to make this conversation into something else, so I'll just move to the Giga Bay updates and we'll go from there. Check this out. So this was an update that happened on launch day, and I really didn't get to cover it too much because Starship was launching, right? I think it's time to deploy the mod SWAT teams. Well, I mean, Trey, they technically didn't break any rules over there. Like, I really would appreciate it if people didn't infuse political rhetoric into my streams. As long as if it has to do with spaceflight policy, then please say it all you want. But, guys, don't you get enough of that on, like, social media and stuff? You gonna do it here? No. So two things. I really don't want to go down that road. Second thing, I don't want to go down that road, and I don't want to expose you guys to that, especially the people that come here for their entertainment, Let's talk about the Giga Bay. So, this was an update on March 3rd. Actually, this was from the Scrub, not the Starship launch. But anyway, check out the spaghetti. It's been in development for months now. That is some nice spaghetti. It looks very delicious. Can I eat it? Oh, I dropped my Dream Chaser. See? Dream Chaser. What is that diagonal glare between the buildings? I don't know. Sorry, it winds you up. Pat, it winds a lot of people up. But guys, you shouldn't get caught up in it. Like, once again, I feel bad even saying this, but you're going to let this work up and you're going to let this increase your blood pressure. I let stuff increase my blood pressure. I was looking at a steam shovel earlier when we were playing Workers, and I was like, why aren't we building these? I want more steam shovels, right? Like, that's what I choose to piss me off, right? But keep in mind, like, I just don't want people, like, don't get me wrong. You also don't need to like what happens in the political news cycle. You don't need to like it, right? I just letting it work you up is just hurting you. You know what I mean? You could disagree with things. You could say you don't like that, but put that effort somewhere else. You know what I mean? It's bad for your health. I'm not even kidding. Like, getting worked up about this stuff. Look at me. I mean, I can tell you, I get worked up about seeing a steamroller go by. I'm like, yeah, steamrollers, like, or like, oh, I don't like that, like, but you can choose to get worked up about stuff that annoys you. But, that doesn't mean that you don't have to be annoyed about it. It's just, you just say, I don't like that. I disagree with that, and then move on. It's like, this is just not saying that you should or shouldn't like different political opinions. Just say, I disagree with that, and move on. That's it. You don't need to get worked up about it. That's only hurting you. You know what I mean? It's only hurting you. That's bad for your health. It's bad for your mental health. It's bad for your health in general because your blood pressure is going to skyrocket. That's all. That's all I'm saying. And if you want me to stop, I'm going to stop. Let's talk about the Giga Bay. Don't, like, it kills me to see viewers get worked up about this stuff. And now, don't get me wrong. We've been kind of conditioned to get worked up about it, right? But you don't need to. You just say, I disagree with that. I don't think that's a good idea. Done. That's what I do. And I tried to lead by example, you know? Don't get worked up, homies. It's bad for your health. Preaching to the choir here. I've been so stressed out. I'm kind of burned out on it all now, right? Don't let it, dude. Don't let it get you, man. You can't let it get you. That's what they want. They want you to let it. They want it to get to you, man. This is about as tinfoil hat as I'm gonna get on this stream. You know? They want you to get worked up about it. Don't get worked up about it. You say, hey, I disagree with that. I don't like that. I don't think that's a good idea. Move on. You got bigger things to worry about. Like Giga Bays. Boom, boom, boom. I'm not worried about it either, to be honest with you. Don't argue, compete. There you go, man. There you go. There you go. Like, don't get worked up about it, dudes. Like, I'm not, this isn't even me like saying like, oh, you should agree with the president or you should disagree with the president. You should, like, that's not me. That's not even me saying that. Like, dude, no matter where you fall on this side of the coin, you can't, if you're going to let that ruin your day, oh man, you're in for a bad time. Just be careful about that. All right. I'm saying this just as a general, like, kind of health PSA, you know? I genuinely appreciate it about this stream. I care about you guys. Like, frick me, right? Like, I care about the people that find me entertaining. Like, I don't know what the hell that's about. I don't have to, but I do. Like, stress and negativity can generate cortisol. So much cortisol can cause health problems. There you go. Laz, you generally appreciate it about the stream. I get enough of this bull from everywhere on the internet. Right, dude? Giga Bay, let's go. So, SpaceX was talking about this last week when they were trying to launch Starship. And then launch Starship. And I would still say that at this moment in time, even after the launch, they're still trying to get Starship into space. Now, that remains an objective.
I'm in space.
Oh, you gifted us up to Lumprod. Thanks, man. So, there's some pretty cool news, particularly this part right here. If you guys have been watching my space news over the past couple of years, you've probably heard me have some crazy tinfoil hat theories, not about mental health, but about how Starship is going to be implemented at the Cape. Well, this whole post right here brought us a lot of very, very juicy tidbits of information about SpaceX's operations at the Cape with Starship and what they're going to look like. Spoiler alert, it involves gigantically big buildings to build gigantically big rockets. Yeah, yes. All right, if what I just said pissed somebody off, by the way, you're in the wrong stream. Just putting it out there. All right, the future of building Starship. In addition to continued infrastructure development at Starbase, Texas, where SpaceX is headquartered, SpaceX is expanding its Starship operations in Florida, bringing Starship production and launch capabilities to the Space Coast. As flight testing and development of Starship continues at Starbase in Texas, SpaceX is building a new integration facility called Giga Bay, next to its Hangar X location at NASA's Kennedy Space Center. Admit it, you are still sad that the VAB is not being used for Starship? No doubt, Wolion. But remember what I was saying about Rook and what I think he's going to do. I'm okay with Starship not using the VAB, and I'll admit that I was very wrong in this matter. But I'm okay with it. Because if the outcome of the NASA over the next 4 years is what I think it is, we don't have to worry about the VAB not being used by anything. Because if SpaceX pulled out of that contract for High Bay 2 and High Bay 1, and they gave High Bay 2 to the SLS program to Exploration Systems Development for core stage final processing for integration, and High Bay 1 is basically up for grabs until NASA... High Bay 1 was basically up for grabs until NASA pulled the contract on that too. That tells me that the VAB is going to be used for SLS. I don't have a problem with that. As long as someone is using the stupid thing. Once again, that also lends credence to the theory that I think SLS is going to be scaled up over the next couple of years. But anyway, back to this. But you're absolutely right. Yeah. Additionally, SpaceX plans to complete the Starship launch pad at 39A at Kennedy Space Center this year, while the environmental impact statements continue for potential Starship flight operations from both 39A. Was this a sentence? Additionally, SpaceX plans to complete the Starship launch at Launch Complex 39A at Kennedy Space Center this year, while the environmental impact statements continue for potential Starship flight operations from both 39A and Space Launch Complex 37 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. Oh, baby. I wouldn't be able to deal with that, Hellfish. If that actually happened, I would legitimately go schizoid, and it wouldn't be pretty. How many SLSs can fit into VAB? So, Lava Eagle, if NASA retools High Bay 1 for SLS Block 1B operations, which is what I think they're trying to do, you could build 2 SLSs at once. Yeah. Right now they have there's 4 high bays in the VAB. All right. There's 1, 2, 3, and 4. I know. Very aptly named. High Bay 2 and High Bay 4 are being used for processing. High Bay 4 is where they process the SRBs right before stacking. So there's like there's a bunch of SRB pedestals in there. I mean, it's kind of a waste of space, to be honest with you, because you have an entire high bay, but they use it to process SRBs that are not as tall as the high bay. But high bay 4 is used for SRB processing. High bay 2 is used for core stage processing and assembly. NASA retooled the production line for SLS a little while back, and they're doing final assembly for the core stages in High Bay 2. So they built a gigantic jig in there to be able to vertically assemble SLS cores, which is actually pretty cool. The reason why they did that is because NASA engineers found it better to assemble the MPS, main propulsion systems for SLS, assemble them in a clean room environment. Kennedy Space Center was the only place with a clean room environment. The Space Station Processing Facility, right? The SSPF. Kennedy Space Center was the only place with a big enough clean room that had a door big enough to get SLS's engine section in and out of it. So, instead of shipping the MPS, the engine section of SLS, to Kennedy Space Center, assembling the dang thing, covering it up, putting it back, shipping it back to Michoud, assembling the thing in Michoud, right, and then shipping the entire core stage back for assembly in the VAB, NASA engineers decided to just put the core stage together in a high bay that wasn't being used. High Bay 2. Now, keep in mind, all the manufacture of components still happen at Michoud. KSC is just being used for assembly. That's all, which is fine. That's what it was used for anyway. So High Bay 2 and High Bay 4 are being used. Good. That's fine. I'm cool with that. High Bay 3 is where Mobile Launcher 1 is being used to build SLS Block 1 with the interim cryogenic propulsion stage. What I think should happen, we know that ML2 is being made right now. I think High Bay 1, which is empty, it's still in space shuttle configuration, believe it or not. High Bay 1 should be retooled for SLS Block 1B, and it should be retooled to accept that mobile launcher that Bechtel is building for NASA right now. Yes, that thing is expensive. That's what happens when you try and design a mobile launcher for a rocket that doesn't exist. You get insane cost overruns. Yeah, that happens. Bechtel is not at fault there. They underbid on purpose because they're pieces of crap. Sorry. Why are you booing me? I'm right. That's what they do. Anyway, they're not entirely at fault here, to be 100% real. Now, retool High Bay 1 for SLS Block 1B, and then when Artemis 3 goes off and High Bay 3 now becomes useless because you don't have any more versions of an SLS Block 1, you retool High Bay 3 for SLS Block 1B as well, and then you have 2 high bays that can work on SLS Block 1B. You're also going to need another mobile launcher to do that, but whatever. You get the idea. You think that weird rectangular object next to Giga Bay could be the integration of the Giga Star factory into the Giga Bay? Yes. Austin. I'll get more into that in a second. So, back to Starship here. SpaceX. So, an interesting tidbit of information. I'll read the whole article, but remember this. Complex 37. They're aiming to have Starship launch from 39A and also Slick 37. Now, expansion of Starship production and launch operations in Florida will enable SpaceX to significantly increase the build and flight rates for Starship, which will be the first rapidly and fully reusable launch vehicle in history. Okay, let's see it. I'm waiting. Access to space is a critical and growing need for U.S. national security, leadership in space, and the country's exploration goals, and for the growth of the economy. Yeah. Starship will ultimately be responsible for sending millions of tons of payload to Mars, building a self-sustaining city to make human multiplanetary. Okay, the Giga Bay. The Giga Bay in Florida will stand at 380 feet tall and will provide approximately 46.5 million cubic feet of interior processing space with 815,000 square feet of workspace. That's big. Including ground level, elevated platform working areas, and a work and meeting space on the top floor. Giga Bay will be able to support Starship and Super Heavy vehicles up to 81 meters, 266 feet tall, and will provide 24 work cells for integration and refurbishment work, along with cranes capable of lifting up to 400 U.S. tons. Yeah, some pretty sweet gantry crane action going on there. Compared to the Mega Bay facilities in Starbase, currently SpaceX's largest stacking and integration buildings, Giga Bay provides more than 11 times the square footage for workspace, 19 additional work cells, and more than twice the crane lifting capacity. So this isn't as big as the VAB, but it's almost as big as the VAB. 380 feet tall. That's a 38-story building. The VAB is 50 stories. So this is like 2/3 the size of NASA's vehicle assembly building, which is... That's Baymaxing. Tadashi is here. Tadashi is here. Baymaxing, yes, correct. Site preparations for Giga Bay in Florida have already begun, with construction targeted to be completed in the facility operational by the end of 2026. At the same time, we are also building another Giga Bay in Starbase, Texas, next to our Starship Star Factory manufacturing facility. Work on this Giga Bay has already begun, and the facility is targeted for completion at the end of 2026. Are you satisfied with your care? Are any of them air conditioning? Mega Bay 2 is climate controlled. More bacon. The VB is 525 feet tall, 518 feet wide, and 716 feet long. It covers 8 acres and contains 129,428,000 cubic feet of space. Interesting. This has less than half of that. As we work to complete the Giga Bay in Florida, we are also designing and planning for a co-located manufacturing facility similar to Star Factory in Texas to enable production of Starships in Florida. To enable initial Starship flights from Florida while our Space Coast Starship manufacturing, integration, and refurbishment facilities are being completed, we will first transport completed Super Heavy boosters and Starship upper stage ships from Starbase via barge to build up a Starship fleet in Florida. Oh, God. That's a sentence that actually exists from a spaceflight company. Is this the actual plan? This is right off of SpaceX's freaking website, dude. How much more official do you want to get? With production, integration, refurbishment, and launch facilities in Florida as well as Texas, we will be in a position to quickly ramp Starship's launch rate via rapid reusability. Starship at the Space Coast. To support initial Starship launches from Florida, SpaceX is building a Starship launch and catch site at 39A at Kennedy Space Center. The Starship pad at 39A will include learnings from Starship's first 2 pads in Starbase. In 2022, we stacked the launch tower at 39A. In the coming months, teams will build and install the pad's deflector system, which provides cooling and sound suppression water during Starship launches and catches. This new deflector will be nearly identical to the one being installed to support the second launch pad at Starbase. Pending completion of environmental reviews, SpaceX intends to conduct Starship's first Florida launch from 39A in late 2025. Holy sh! Whoa. Boosters don't fly far enough downrange, Lord Gugu. The Gulf is huge. So they're going to dig a new flame trench at 39A? I don't think they're going to dig a new flame trench. Yeah, they're going to have to. Orange, yeah, now that I'm thinking about it. I'm going to have to press X on that one. Yeah, we'll see. To support the needed Starship flight rate to make humanity a multiplanetary civilization, which involves not only the launch of cargo and people, but also the propellant tankers to enable on-orbit refueling, SpaceX is also interested in enabling Starship launches from Slick 37 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. SpaceX has been given a limited right of entry for Slick 37 in support of conducting future due diligence of the site in order to move forward with the environmental impact study led by the Department of the Air Force for Starship and Super Heavy operations at the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. Slick 37 was built in the late 1950s and early 1960s. NASA used the pad from 1964 to 1968 for testing of the Saturn I and Saturn 1B rockets as part of the Apollo program. From 2002 to 2024, the pad was used for the Delta IV rocket. So, some pretty awesome information. If that happens, I'll be very impressed. I'm an optimist about this, but if that happens, if they launch from 39A in late 2025, I will be very, very impressed. There is no second pad for 39A as far as I can tell, unless they're building it somewhere that we can't see, which that's a very distinct possibility. Anyway, guys, I wanted to share this with you to tell you that my VAB Starship theory is wrong. It was incorrect. I am wrong on this regard. That is not how the chips fall, as much as I wanted that to be a thing. Slick 37. I had a theory that Slick 37 was going to be used for Falcon 9s. And it's very clear that that's not the case. I was wrong on that. That sucks. But whatever. Now, little bit of interesting wording from SpaceX there. So let me bring you up to speed. So this right here, let me zoom out to show you guys where I am. We're in Florida. Okay. We're in Florida. This is Florida. You can tell it's big and Floridian, right? If you zoom in, Kennedy Space Center is from here up. This is KSC. This tidbit right here, this like weirdly shaped thing, that's Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. If you zoom into CCSFS, this is Slick 37, Complex 37. Now, Complex 37 is a twin pad launch complex. If you look at what SpaceX said in this last paragraph here, look, to support the needed Starship flight rate to make humanity a multiplanetary civilization, SpaceX is also interested in enabling Starship launches from Slick 37. They said that Slick 37 was used by NASA for Saturn I and Saturn 1B rockets, and then from 2002 to 2024, the pad was used for Delta IV rockets. Now, like I said, Slick 37 is a twin pad launch complex, technically. The pads that were used during the Apollo program are right there, 1 and 2. So this is actually Slick 37A and Slick 37B. The way that Slick 37 was originally designed was they had a mobile service structure that could move back and forth between the pads. So You could either be building a rocket and stacking it on the pad, right? And when you go to launch it, you move the service tower over here, so you could build over here and launch over here at the same time. You wouldn't interrupt the production flow. There's two pads, one mobile service structure. You could still see the tracks from where it moved back in the day. They're long gone. Now, Slick 37 originally used a pedestal mount for Saturn 1B rockets. The pedestal mount, somewhat similar to what Starship Pad A looks like. It's just a pedestal mount. I mean, it's a little bit smaller than Pad A for Starship because Saturn 1B is not nearly as big. Right? But the pedestals were basically right in front of these diamonds, right here and right here. And the mobile service structure moved back and forth. That was all demolished in the 70s, I think. And then in the 2000s, Delta IV didn't utilize any of the Apollo architecture except for the fuel farm, right? And then they built the Delta IV pad over here, kind of off to the side, away from either pad, which is... All right. They built that there. And it's been used for basically the past 22 years and change to launch Delta IVs. What do you think they need? Like 1,200 flights a year to hit the Mars transfer window? Yeah, something like that. So, note that SpaceX did not say 37B. They didn't say 37A. They just said 37. The big nugget of information here that I'm getting at is that I think if they do push forward with operations from Slick 37, we're going to have two Starship towers right next to each other. That's my theory. These areas right here are primed for two towers. Yeah. So you have one tower here, your trench right here, and then another tower there and a trench right there. Basically, Pad B, two of them right next to each other. With Saturn V hydrolocks, the second and third stage on Saturn V utilized hydrolocks, yes. Could you build 4 of them? I'm not sure how you'd do that, but sure, why not? What about the factory? Well, the factory is over here. Now, keep in mind the photogrammetric pictures that Google Earth is using. It says this imagery date was like from 2023. That's the photogrammetric pictures are the Cape from like 2012. This is what it looks like now. So, right here is Hangar X. This is SpaceX's East Coast Falcon 9 refurbishment facility. So Falcon 9s that have flown get put in here and they get checked out and sent out for reintegration. Now, over here, so this is what we're looking at here is at Kennedy Space Center. This is SpaceX's Roberts Road facilities, okay? They said they were going to modify this. But yeah, Hangar X is what's currently at Roberts Road, right? And then you have this thing over here. This was originally slated to be Star Factory, but this building, from what I understand, produces tiles for Starship. This uses tiles for refurb, if I'm understanding this correctly. Or not refurb. This uses tiles for, they're making the tiles in there for Starship. They call it the bakery. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, if you guys look, these pictures are also not current, Creeper. You're right, because those tower segments are the tower segments for Pad B at Boca Chica. They made them here along with those chopsticks and SQD and the carriage, and these were all moved to Texas. All those parts right there are currently sitting at the launch site. I saw them a week ago. Refurbishment facility ... What do you... Yeah, Poseidon. This is where they turn around Falcon 9s and get them ready for flight again. I would like to add that Falcon 9 refurbishment, or, I mean, you could even say reuse, but refurbishment facility is probably the right thing to say. Falcon 9 refurbishment takes like 20 days. Yeah. Yeah, they can turn around a booster in basically 2 weeks, which is insane for any piece of spaceflight hardware. Yeah. So that's where they do that. Now, where's the Gigafactory and everything going to go? Over here. SpaceX has a plot of land at KSC that's about this big. Yeah, they have a plot that goes all the way up to this. Well, let's call it a mosquito sanctuary and call it a day. Yeah, that's what they have. Now, the Giga Bay, let's just draw the line here. I'll draw a line here so you guys have that as reference. They bought this plot of land. The Giga Bay, guys, is going to be right here, and that's what the render is on their website. And the Giga Bay is roughly going to be about this. This is not exact. Just bear with me. That's what it's going to look like. Now, let's zoom out a little bit and look at the VAB. See the VAB over there? This thing is not going to be as tall as the VAB, but it's almost as wide as the VAB and about 2/3 the height. Just sent you 2 more recent satellite pictures. Oh. A hokey side note, I like that idea. Oh, yeah. Here is a much more... Yeah, Creeper, thank you. Where are these pictures coming from? There's a picture of Roberts Road. There's the bakery. That's Hangar X. See? See what I mean? See the plot? They already started grading for the Giga Bay. What do you think the Giga Bay layout is? Oh, Python, you asked my favorite freaking question, dude. NRO. SpaceX only needs eye for a booster. Yep, that's right, Bill. What do I think Giga Bay is going to look like? Can we get EJ Planet Labs access? I don't know. All right, so I had a theory about this. Of course I did. It's me. They said up here that they have space. You have 24 work cells for integration and refurbishment work. All right, so the Mega Bay that's at Starbase looks something like this, right? You have your door right in the center right here. Let's just put that there to mark a door. The Mega Bay has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 processing bays. Technically, you could put one right here, so 6 total. But I mean, they kind of they move in and out here. This one is kind of just a dud clean room area, a clean area, right? So that's 5. This one has 24. Okay. We need Robert's Road Cam for construction. So now if you look at the renders here, clearly you have 2 doors on either side, and one side is for Starship, the other one's for Super Heavy. So you guys tell me, is it a reasonable extrapolation here to think that if there's 24 processing bays, that 12 are on this side and 12 are on that side? Is that fair? Are we reasonable here? Is this a reasonable thing? Right? You get a Tesla, and you get a Tesla, and you get a Tesla. Hey, there's an F-150 right there. There's a Range Rover there? Ew. There's some Cybertrucks back there. So it's reasonable to believe that there's 12 processing stands here. So here's what I think this is going to look like. They also said they're going to have overhead gantry cranes. All right. So we have a building that's about this big, right? It's pretty much a square, right? And you have a door here and a door here. Now, something about this Giga Bay render. SpaceX's renders of buildings are usually pretty accurate. They're like, that pretty much is what it's going to look like. We've seen this in the past. I feel like there would be more ship stands than booster stands. Okay. So, all right. Something to understand. And we had this conversation before, and it was speculative, right? But now we know a little bit more. So I'm going to say that there's probably doors on the other side to some extent, right? So let's just say that there's doors over. Actually, you know what? There doesn't need to be doors on the other side. If you look at this render, there's a building that connects into this from the side. For the barrel segments. Yeah, Rocket Guy, but I'm wondering how that's going to feed. All right, so let's continue. I'm going to continue talking myself through this, guys. I have an idea, a general idea what I think, but I'll talk through it so people can understand where I'm at. So this building is a pretty accurate render. SpaceX usually gets their building renders and pad renders pretty damn close, all right? Sometimes there's flux in the design, so the renders don't exactly look like the pads, but you get the idea. So this building has, okay, people are going to laugh. This building doesn't have any flying buttresses. Yeah, flying buttresses. Yeah, say it. Let's get it out of our system. Flying buttresses. That's hilarious. I get it. You're absolutely right. Flying buttresses. All right, cool. Now, with that being said, I'm going to say that a lot. Try not to snicker, okay? Or have a Snickers. I don't know. So we're looking at Starbase Live right here. Let's go back and take a look. There's no pictures of the production site. All right. Give me 1 second. SpaceX's buildings that are down there, they currently have 3 of them. This is a picture from RGV Aerial. It's a picture from RGV Aerial Photography. SpaceX has 3 bays down there, okay? So they have High Bay 1, which is going to get destroyed very soon. They have Mega Bay 1 and Mega Bay 2, okay? Those Mega Bays are the ones that have the 5 processing stands on them, okay? Look at those buildings. You see the stuff that's sticking out the sides? It has like a bunch of cage stuff sticking out of the sides of the thing. Those are called flying buttresses. Basically, this type of architecture is used if you need a big open space inside of your building. Flying buttresses aren't anything new. For the architecture nerds, it's not anything new. Flying buttresses have been around for a long time. That's a good example of needing a wide open space inside of a structure. That's the Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris, in France. Notre Dame used flying buttresses. Flying buttresses is an idea that goes back to Gothic architecture. If you look at the side of the church, see, you have external support structures coming out of your main building. That's how they made a gigantic open space. I mean, personally, I like classical architecture. Like, all right, I'm just going to weigh in here a little bit of architectural stuff. Personally, I think classical architecture is better because the Romans were better at making gigantic, wide open, freestanding space structures. Screw flying buttresses, all right? They didn't need that. They didn't need that. And classical architecture is like a millennia older than Gothic. So piss off. Piss off with your flying buttresses, all right? All right? Roman architecture didn't need that. That has no flying buttresses. It's a freestanding concrete arch, or dome, excuse me. Yeah, it's Parthenon in Rome. It's cooler. It's a cooler church. Sorry, not sorry. Notre Dame is awesome, though. Anyway, flying buttresses are external support structures when you need a wide open space for a church,
Discovery,
or
go at throttle up.
if you need to store your 70-meter tall boosters inside of a structure and not have any internal supports. What's up, Tally? 8-month resub. Now, with all that being said, take a look. There's no flying buttresses in this render, and they would have shown it. This is just a big cube. So, okay, bear with me here. What the hell are you talking about, dude? What does that have to do with how you think the plan of this building is going to be set up? Well, if there's no flying buttresses, it has to have internal structure. And internal structure is going to influence the design, is it not? With no flying buttresses, this building can't be hollow. So there's got to be support structure. Doubly, there needs to be support structure for overhead gantry cranes. So what does that mean? That means you're going to need structure on, so you have your door right here. You're going to need structure on this side of the building right here and this side of the building right here. Why? Why do you need structure on either side? So the gantry crane can stay up on something. All right, so you have your high bay design. I think there's going to be an internal structure right here. Call it
Discovery, go at throttle up.
a metal structure, right? There's going to be an internal structure right here like this. Truss structure. Think the VAB, right? Flying butt. Now, because you're going to need gantry cranes, and I'm going to assume that the gantry cranes can move up and down either side to better stack Starship, you're going to need the same type of thing going on over here. Please excuse the crudity of this model. I didn't have time to build it to scale or to paint it. You're going to need the same type of thing going on here and here. They said they're 400-ton cranes in their press release. 400-ton cranes. So, here. The NASA's Vehicle Assembly Building has cranes that look like this. They're up there. They're at the very, very top, right? Those are 400-ton cranes. And there's one lifting an external tank. See? There's one lifting a space shuttle. That's pretty neat. That's a real picture. Yep. There's one lifting an SLS pathfinding. The SLS pathfinding article. Ken Kremer took that picture. To be very technical, the VAB has 3 cranes in it. There's one low crane that goes along the length of this hallway, and then there's 2 cranes that go perpendicular to it. But you get the idea. There's one of the big cranes right there. There is the big boy cranes up there.
I'm in space.
Yum Food gifted a sub to Kevis. Thank you. And Nova 1 had a 7-month resub. Thank you very much. Right? So it's funny because those cranes are 50 stories up. Yeah, 50 stories. So that crane is sitting at the same height as a 50-story skyscraper. That's how big the VAB is. The VAB is on a scale that most people don't just genuinely understand. So you have your transfer aisle crane right here, and then you have your high bay crane. Your transfer aisle crane is used to help the high bay cranes rotate a rocket vertically, and then the high bay cranes lift it up and move it through the high bay transfer sections into the high bay for stacking. The mobile launcher would be like right here in this idea. The VAB has a pretty awesome processing flow. It's almost like it was made to mass produce rocket stacks. That was the idea. Here is a top-down view of what the VAB looks like. Everything comes in through the transfer aisle, right? You have cells over here for third stage processing, S4B processing, and then you have your high bays. Yep. You could stack as many rockets as you wanted in here, and then they pick the rockets up and they move the high bay cranes, move them into the high bays. There's 2 sets of high bay cranes. There's one that go between 3 and 4, and there's a set that goes between 1 and 2. Each high bay track that goes here and here, right, has 2 cranes on it. Why? Because the VAB was designed to be able to build 4 Saturn V's all at once, if needed. Yeah. What could have been? Right? Everything comes through here and it goes into every high bay. You could build 3 Saturn V's at once. You could build as many as you want. You could build up to 4 at once if you had 4 mobile launchers, but they only built 3 MLs. Yeah, that's what the VAB was supposed to do. It was supposed to mass build Saturn V's. It is a gigantic vehicle assembly line for building Saturn V's on MLs so we could go to the moon sustainably. I don't really give a frick what anybody says. Everybody says the Apollo program wasn't sustainable. By what fricking metric? Of course it's not sustainable. You canceled it before it could become sustainable, you dopes. Anyway, see, choose about what you can get worked up from. I choose to get worked up about the VAB doing the literal opposite of its name. It is a vehicle assembly building. Therefore, if it's a vehicle assembly building, it should be used to assemble rockets, assemble vehicles. It is not being used for that, and I have a problem with this. Is that fair? Is that fair? Is that fair? That's fair. I think that's a fair assessment. Anyway, now, go back to SpaceX's design. You have 2 aisles here, right? Obviously, this side is for Super Heavy, and this side is for Starship. Per the renders, it might be different. Who knows? Now, you have tracks. My guess is that you have tracks, and you're going to have 2 400-ton cranes that are basically here and here, and these cranes can move back and forth along these 2. We'll call them transfer aisles, right? That's what I think. Now, what makes sense to me is if you need internal structure, if you're going to have gantry cranes, SpaceX says they're going to have gantry cranes, no flying buttresses in the render, it means there's an internal structure. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Discovery.
1,
Go at throttle
2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 12 stands for assembling Super Heavies. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 12 for Starship. Now, they said they're 400-ton gantry cranes, and some of you guys said, well, maybe some of them aren't for Super Heavy. Maybe some of them aren't for Starship. Well, yeah, you could probably have it do either one. You could probably have 6 Super Heavies in here and 6 Starships being worked on, and then have your fleet of Starships in the other bay. I think SpaceX will use the hangar space however they see fit. But if you cast your mind back to the mega bays, right? This one has all the boosters in it, and that one has all the Starships in it. So SpaceX clearly sees a divergence in the processing capability of Starships versus Super Heavies. Gee, I wonder why. One has 33, the other one has 6 engines. One has tiles, the other one doesn't. They're 2 very different pieces of equipment despite being the same vehicle, right? So I think that Starships will stay on this side. You can use one row of this to store a fleet of Starships, and you could use another row to build the fleet of Starships. SpaceX is building a pretty dang sizable fleet of Starships right now, if they don't keep losing them, with 5 processing stools. Imagine what they could do with 12. Right? So, how do vehicles get in and out of this? How's this going to work? Well, it's very clear that there's a building in the render, there's a building that kind of attaches either to the side, right, or to the back of this. Now, if I had to look at this correctly, if I'm looking at this right, you might have a door in the back here, another door in the back here as well. But these doors right there are not like the super tall doors in the Mega Bay. Those doors probably are that big at best. It's probably enough to move whatever the biggest subassembly is going in there. So this door is probably not 70 meters tall. It's probably like 20 or 30 because of the barrel segments. I think that factory is going to go to the back here, right? Like this, right? And all of your production assembly lines are going to do this. So let's say you have line 1, line 2, line 3, and line 4, right? Line 4 is making just barrel segments. Line 3 is making common bulkheads. Line 2 is making starship thrust structures. Line 1 is making nose cones, right? There's probably going to be more than 4 lines, but you get the idea. That's basically what we see at Starbase. And then they'll get moved in here, and the gantry cranes that I was telling you about, which have articulation left, right, and forward and back, can build as many starships as you want. You just need a way for this stuff to get in there. That makes sense? You want to talk about the design? That's what I think makes the most sense based off of what we're looking at and what was said in that press update. You know, metal will go in one side, spaceships and boosters come out the other. That's what makes the most sense to me. The other thing, the only other modification that could be a thing, back it up, back it up, back it up, back it up, is that the building just goes like this, right? And then you have all your lines, like I was saying, and then there's just a door right there. And then there's a door right here. So all your components could go in here. Starship components just get moved over here. Super heavy components get moved here and here, and then the Starship components get moved there and there. So it does end up bearing a passive resemblance to the VAB, which is kind of cool. In this design, though, you wouldn't have doors over here. Everything goes out that way and that way. Does that make sense? That's my theory. Falcon SLS will be canceled. Boeing won't speed up as they didn't speed up with Starliner. What prompted that comment, dude? Just out of straight curiosity. What prompted that? Looks like the cranes are the limiting factor for assembly. Maybe. And if they expand more, another Giga Bay on the back of the building, you would split the two. You could, Andrew, yeah. Right now, all the fuel is trucked in. How much cadence would you need before that becomes infeasible? Can opener. This is going to seem like a completely weird response from me. I'm a train nerd. I think that SpaceX will eventually either pipeline fuel into Starbase or they will send it in via train. It's going to be one or the other to support the high flight cadence. Now, at the Cape already has a lot of facilities to be able to, including railroads. KSC has its own train system. They don't use it because... but I think that, you're going to need to train it. You're going to need a better way, either a pipeline or train it in. Now, why a pipeline for this? Well, you'd need a pipeline for the methane. For the liquid oxygen, you could build an air separator. An air separator you don't need a lot of infrastructure to make an air separator to make liquid oxygen. There's plenty of liquid oxygen production facilities at the Cape, and I've seen them. They're not big, and they make tons of LOX, right? I wouldn't worry about that too much. Now, so what do we do about methane with Boca Chica? What do we do? Well, there's this thing. There's this thing that's just to the north of like where Starbase is, right? It's this thing that's up here. This thing that has a lot of black stuff in it. What's it called? What's the name of it? Oh yeah, oil fields. That's right. There is a gigantic oil field that basically goes from between San Antonio, Houston, and McAllen. This right here is a gigantic, one of the biggest oil deposits in the world. Okay, so I know what you're thinking. Okay, great, EJ. Who cares? How are you going to get that down here? Pipeline or railroad? And you can't say that there already is an infrastructure to move petroleum products around in Texas. That would be silly. There's plenty of infrastructure, dude. Texas is building a liquefied natural gas, an LNG terminal in Brownsville, proverbially across the street from the launch site. See what I'm saying? My guess is that they're either gonna pipeline it in from here, and if you pipeline it in from here, you could send it via train around the port of Brownsville right over to your launch site, or you could just pipeline it straight to the launch site. The pipeline would not be very far. My reaction when I see a place called Raymondville near Starbase. Nice. I thought they were going to make methane using solar power at Boca. Yeah, that was a thing at one point. It's not a thing anymore. Dude, the entire solar farm is gone. There's houses there. Seriously, they replaced it with employee housing. You know why? The solar farm was a mosquito haven. If it rained, it didn't have drainage, so it became a petri dish for mosquitoes, so they got rid of it. And they got rid of the South Padre Island tracking, or the South Texas tracking site. That's gone. I heard some rumors about a new Starbase location in Florida. Heard anything? Yeah, Athanas, it's not a rumor. SpaceX has a press release about it. That's what we're discussing, dude. Oh, yeah. Oh, dude. Okay. That drawing that I just showed is what I think the assembly line is going to look like. They're going to build an assembly line. SpaceX is going to build a vertically integrated assembly line factory for mass producing starships at the Cape. That's what they're doing. I always use this. I always use Willow Run as the example, but I think SpaceX is taking influence from this. So what's Willow Run? Willow Run was a airplane manufacturing plant that Ford built in World War II. It's in Ypsilanti, Michigan, or Ypsi for short if you're a local. It's just outside of Detroit. Ford built this facility. Henry Ford built this facility to produce bombers for the World War II war effort, right? Personally, I think SpaceX is taking a page out of Willow Run's book because to this day, no aircraft plant has been able to duplicate the numbers of Willow Run. Willow Run could produce a 4-engined heavy bomber every 10 minutes. 24/7, 365, 3 shifts. Every 10 minutes, a new bomber rolled off of this line. Yep. No one has ever been able to duplicate that since. Ever. Well, nobody's ever tried, because there's never been the demand that was needed during World War II. However, if you're trying to send a fleet of ships to Mars, you might want to look into this for some reference. That's why the U.S. Yeah, that's why the Allies won the war, because we had, yeah, this. Losers discuss tactics. Winners discuss logistics. I play Hearts of Iron. All right. Okay. Play Hearts of Iron. Then again, these planes were much simpler back then. They're simpler by our standards, King. They were highly advanced machines for the time. The B-24 was cutting edge in 1941. What are you talking about? It's simple to us. Yeah, sure. That ain't no F-35, right? What's that? Oops. We'll discuss that in a second, Milge. So, let me bring you up to speed. You know, viewer asked, who was that? Athenis. All right, you asked about what SpaceX is doing. I think SpaceX is going to do this with Starships. They are going to mass produce it. Willow Run is insane. It's a monument to industrial engineering, even by like 70 years on. I mean, look at that, dude. Is that nuts or what? Every 10 minutes. 10 minutes. Ford made more airplanes during World War II than airplane manufacturers. They made more planes than Boeing. Look it up. Crazy. I think SpaceX is taking a page out of Willow Run's book, and they're building a Willow Run style plant at Roberts Road in at Cape Canaveral, or at Kennedy Space Center. So by that metric, they produced 50,000 planes in 1 year. Hang on, let me double check my numbers. I know they could roll off the assembly line every 10 minutes. I don't know if it was 3 shifts, Hokie. Give me 1 second. I'm just going to fact check myself here real quick. I don't think the plant was working long enough to really hit that full 50,000 mark. If I'm going to guess, well, if I'm going to guess that that's, they probably had to ramp, and they probably hit that by the end of the war, but they was never producing at that rate for a full year. But also, that's a lot of airplanes, dude. When they were at peak ramp up, that was the rate. It wasn't that many overall because it ramped over the course of a few years. Yep. Okay. Dude, 8,600 planes. Ford made 8,600 airplanes during World War II. That's ridiculous. That is an insane amount of aircraft by any stretch of the imagination. How do radio signals affect space communication? Radio signals. From what, Kirok? What do you mean? You want a logistical epic? The Berlin airlift. Yeah, that's right, Archie. Guess what planes they used. No, they didn't use B-24s all. It was mostly DC-6s, but whatever. We need 8,600 starships, right? So, like I said, Willow Run, it was an assembly line. Like, it is an assembly line. The entire factory is built around an assembly line. Like, look. So check it out. See the 2 rows right there? So these are offices over here. Right here is where they structural manufacture, right? It makes all the sub-assemblies of the plane, right? Over here, engines, avionics, guns, landing gear, etc., etc. All these buildings over here are sub-assemblies that feed into your made production lines. And then you had principal assembly right here, and then once the landing gear got on the plane, they literally just rolled the plane down the assembly line. Now, up here at the top, right, the assembly line took a 90-degree turn to the right, so the planes could go through final processing in these hangars right here. So the assembly line is a big Z. It's Factorio, dude. Like I said, unbelievable. 8,600 planes. If I'm remembering correctly, Willow Run went online in 1942, I think. Give me 1 second. I'll look. That's Fort Worth. Cool. We had hundreds and hundreds of small supply plants in towns across my state. My hometown made headlights. There you go. It's cool, man. I think SpaceX is doing this with Starship for what it's worth. That's why we're talking about it. Aziza, all right, Kirak, let me answer your question. What did you ask? Like communication between spacecraft and rovers. Oh, you have to deal with galactic cosmic waves and background radiation, but other than that, it's actually easier for radio transmissions to move around in space because space is nothing. I mean, it's a little more complicated than that, but that's the gist of it. It holds the record as the world's most produced bomber, heavy bomber, multi-engine aircraft, and American military aircraft in history. We made more B-24s than we made B-52s, which is bananas to me. Anyway, Willow Run was... Ford didn't get that contract for Willow Run until after Pearl Harbor, so it would have been in 1942. So that means from 1942 to 1945, that factory not only ramped up, it was built, ramped up, and produced 8,600 airplanes in less than 3 years. That is absurd. But the reason why I even reference this is because I think that's what SpaceX is trying to do with Starship. They're going to do that with Starship because that's what's needed to send a fleet of ships to Mars. One Starship going to Mars is not... that's a great exploration mission. You want to build a city on Mars, you're going to need thousands of these things. And that's what I think SpaceX is trying to do. They're trying to produce it like Willow Run. Once again, Elon taking a page out of Henry Ford's book. Don't read into that too much. I'm talking about Tesla. Elon did with Tesla, with electric cars, what Henry Ford did with the internal combustion engine car 100 years ago. Don't read into that too much. Did Ford get a military contract for Willow Run? Yes. It was a cost plus contract, Flykin, believe it or not. And Henry Ford, it's kind of what King said in chat over there. Henry Ford milked that contract hard by there were incentives to make a lot of planes, and he's like, all right. Yeah, so Ford made a ton of money off Willow Run. Yeah. Ford also, you know what's funny? Ford also made more Jeeps than Jeep during World War II. Yeah. Also another cost plus contract, and Ford made tons of money off of. Yep. Can we have World War II style cost plus, please? Yeah, be careful what you wish for. Cost plus also gave us the B-36, which is arguably a piece of junk. Yep. Consolidated. It designed the B-24 Hokie. Consolidated. Yeah. Ford built it not under license, I guess. The government basically nationalized the design. Yeah. Ford built more Jeeps, though. That's the other thing. The Willis Jeep. Yeah, Kaiser, or Willys, not Kaiser. Kaiser was in the 50s. Willys couldn't scale. They couldn't scale. Seriously, they couldn't scale. So the government took the contract for Jeeps and started shopping around with it and gave it to Ford. It's a really funny story. Henry Ford hated Jeeps. I don't know why. I really don't understand why. Henry Ford had an irrational hatred for the Jeep. He hated that thing. Seriously. The government said, we'll give you millions of dollars to make Jeeps for the war effort. And he said, no, thing's a piece of junk. I hate that. And the government said, are you serious? We want to pay you money to make this. And he's like, I'm not making that. I'm not putting my name on that. That thing's a piece of junk. I'm serious. This happened. It's crazy. Right? And they're like, okay, all right. The U.S. government was like, okay, dude, we will give you a lot of money. Just make the stupid thing. And he's like, fine, I'll make it. Double the pay or something ridiculous like that. And they're like, all right, fine. And he's like, fine, I'll make it. But I want everybody to know when that piece of junk doesn't break down that it's a Ford. And you can always tell a Willys Jeep, right? From the difference between a Willys Jeep and a Ford GPW is the amount of slots on the grill, right? The Ford ones have more slots than Jeep, right? And all the bolts that held together the Ford GPWs, basically Ford's version of the Jeep, had Ford's cursive F on it. Because Henry Ford wanted to prove that he could make a better Jeep than Jeep. That's also the reason why the Ford Bronco existed too. Because Henry Ford's grandson, Henry Ford II, wanted to make a better Jeep than Jeep again. Screw you, Jeep. Ford. Something like that, Jim. Yeah, 9 for Willys, 11 for Fords. Yep.
Discovery.
So,
Throttle up.
Athanas, you kind of got us into a little mass production, factorio, industrial engineering educational opportunity. But SpaceX is trying to do that with Starships. They are going to, that's what that weird paint drawing that I showed here. This is what I think the Giga Bay down in Florida, that's what I think it's going to look like. Nope, not a bagger, not today. So SpaceX has a render of their Giga Bay there, and it has 2 gigantic doors on it. One's for Super Heavy and one's for Starship, and then there's a giant building to the side of it, right? What I think is that this bit over here is that building to the side, and this is what I think the Giga Bay will look like. Right? SpaceX says they have 24 processing stands. They also have gantry cranes. If you have gantry cranes, you're going to need an internal structure. There's no flying buttresses. There's no flying buttresses like Starbase. The Starbase buildings have all their support structure on the outside. You can't do that if you have gantry cranes. 400-ton gantry cranes, might I add. These do have gantry cranes inside of them, right? Not a 400-ton gantry crane. SpaceX said they're using, yeah, up to 400 tons. So they have a 400-ton capacity gantry crane. You're not putting that up there with flying buttresses. The whole building will collapse. The roof would collapse because of the weight of the crane, right? So you're going to have internal structure. So I believe the cranes are going to be here, and they're going to roll on tracks and be able to traverse the length of this building. Here and here, right? And the other thing I think is that all the components are going to come from this building, and they're either going to go around and in the back door, right? Or they're going to go through a transfer aisle to be able to go to wherever their processing stool is. This will allow SpaceX to basically Willow run a Starship production. That's the entire reason why I mentioned it. They're the Twin Bay thing. See what I'm talking about? The Twin Bay thing. You have a row for Super Heavies and a row for Starships. That is Willow Run to a T. Willow Run had 2 parallel lines as well. That's how it worked. There were 2 parallel production lines, right here and right here. 2 rows. Like I said, Henry Ford's taking a page out of or Elon Musk, Elon in SpaceX, the engineers at SpaceX are taking a page out of Henry Ford's playbook. The mass production side of thing, not the other stuff. See what I'm saying? Do SpaceX do anything with those ship cranes they had at one point? Nothing. They sold them or scrapped them, Geeson. Shout out to Metro Detroit. That's my second home because that's where my wife is from. 8,600 box. Yep. We just looked it up. They produced 8,600 B-24s in 3 years. The factory went from a field, which is what it is now, pisses me off, to a plane factory producing 8,600 planes in less than 3 years. Yep. Okay. At its height, at peak ramp, a bomber rolled off the assembly line every 10 minutes. I think we're going to see that with Starship in the future. Maybe not every 10 minutes, but that's the idea. Yeah, if we go up to Ipsy here. How many F-35s have they made? Now, Joe, it's kind of interesting that you picked the F-35. The F-35 the F-35 production line is pretty good. Yep. That's all that's left. You can see where the original factory was. Here to here. The rows, the twin rows for the B-24s, you could still see they were there. Right there and right there. You guys want to hear an even funnier story? After the war, Ford said, the government said, you can keep the factory if you want. He said, I don't want this. He sold it to Chevy.
Why do nurses prefer
True
using
story.
red pens? In case they have to
Goose.
draw blood.
Wow. Nice. Okay. Yeah. Right there is what's left of the assembly line. That's the final assembly and rollout right there. The whole assembly line it was a gigantic Z. Like I said, it went from here, up here to there. Last for a stupid question. Really stupid question. Can you stop just saying that and ask a question, please? Would you have to worry about the buildings falling over if the cranes were at capacity and on one side of the building? No. Statics is a fairly predictable thing. The main GM parts warehouse is across the street. If you special order any GM parts, that's where it comes from. Oh, this crock of crap over here? Not Ford. Don't care. That's just upsetting. This is just upsetting. They demolished the factory in 2008 because the last 30 years GM has been run by people who have no idea what they're doing. Hey, that's a fair criticism. Be quiet. Do you know anything about locking F-35s remotely from the allies that might be using them? Obviously, withholding replacement parts has the same effect in the long term. Osmoso, no. I have no idea, dude. I know about spacecraft and old planes. I have no idea, man. And even if I did, dude, I don't want to talk about that stuff here. Kind of same thing happened to the Ford factory. My dad worked, shut it down, and took almost 10 years before something new was on the site. Yuck. Cheers, fair enough. Like, dude, yeah. I don't want to bring that kind of conversation in, dude. I don't know. I guess at this point in time, if we're talking about industry, I'll say stand behind your product, I guess. I think that's fair. Right? We'll go from there. You avoid Phoenix. Yeah. Abandoned factories piss me off, Boyd. That makes me very, like, irrationally upset. Irrationally upset. Like, I hate it. My wife's from Dearborn, dude. I've seen firsthand what that looks like. It is getting angry. I'm getting 5 more minutes of this. I'm gonna get mad. It's not my fault this is happening. How did the B-17 and B-29 production compare to the B-24? Oh, B-29s were manufactured a little ways after the war. They actually made a better version of the B-29. It's called the B-50 with jet engines on it, if you really want to know. Yes, you heard that right. So I'm not sure if the numbers are entirely comparable. Maybe the B-17. Let's compare. The B-17 was only made during World War II, just like the B-24. They made 12,731 B-17s. So almost, they made 18,000 B-24s. Yeah. Like I said, Ford made more planes than Boeing did during World War II.
Go at throttle up.
Is that ridiculous or what? Just saying. Now, let's be real. Boeing made a way nicer airplane than Ford did, but Ford's job to make the stupid thing. That thing is like a critical step in aviation history right there. Hey, Freddie, 71-month resub. It hurts. It pisses me off, Bob. I don't like it. How many B-29s did they make? Yeah, 3,900. Not even close. They made 18,500 B-24s. Yeah. Crazy. Yeah, and also the B-50. The B-50 had jet engines on it. They put jet engines out here on the newest versions. Yeah, it's a B-29 with 2 jet engines and 4 propeller engines. I love how their solution after World War II was to just take planes that they already had and put jet engines on them to make them go faster. And, well, lift more, but you get the idea. Yeah, well, you didn't get the engineering right. It doesn't lift as much as you said. Slap 2 jet engines on it. Screw it. Yeah, look. Look. B-29 with 6 engines. 2 jet engines and 4 propeller engines. Look. It's got 2 jet engines on it. Yeah, not a lot of people know about the B-50, dude. Yeah, that's a KB-50 for what it's worth. It's a refuel. It's a tanker variant, and it's refueling. Is that an F-86? Actually, no, that is not an F-86. That is so Marines VMA 214. That's not an F-86. It's what is it? An F-4J, I think, or something. That's the Navy variant of that plane. B-29s with turboprops would be nice. The best I can. This is the best I can do. That's the best I can do. That's the best I can do. B-29 with turboprops. That's about as close as you're gonna get. Didn't get the engineering right, or nukes were really heavy in the late 40s, early 50s, and that's what they wanted them to carry? Correct, Yarg. Yeah, that's a better way of putting it. Someone got fired. What is this? Oh yeah, that. So anyway, that's what I've been talking about. We'll go on to the next bit of space news. That's what I'm thinking with the Giga Bay. It's they're twin production lines for one for Super Heavy and one for Starship, for final assembly at least. That's what it's going to look like. I'm pretty sure. Remember this. If I'm wrong, I'll let you know. That just proves me correct. The B-29 without the massive hump and turboprops would be nice. It'd actually be a sweet little plane, dude. So that tweet that you guys just linked was also picked up by NSF. So Chris B posted this. Check this out. Ninja Goddamn, I used to work on Lockheed P2V Neptunes. They had radials and jets. Such a cool combination. That's cool, man. Great plane. Even used for space capsule searches a few times. A P2V. Hold on real quick. Oh, this thing. Yeah. Hey, dude. What the heck? Cool. Neat. I miss them. They sounded so cool. Oh, I bet it had that noise. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Replicate the Giga Bay in Satisfactory. Oh, God. On the topic of supplying LNG for Starbase, float it. It's cheaper. Maybe. I'm dumb. How do they equalize the thrust with props and jets? Shouldn't the props be too slow and not provide any benefit? You could feather the props, Tricera. Yeah, feathering the props will probably fix that problem. I'd like to point out that just attaching jet engines to your propeller planes is very much a stopgap solution. You know what I mean? That's very much a, oh crap, we need this thing to do more, right? Because it wasn't long before the B-47 came out. So, the Stratojet. Look, first flight in 1947. Introduced in 1951. B-47s are pretty cool. Like I said, it wasn't long before they switched to just all jet engines. Like, it was a couple of years. They only put the jet engines on the dang things to just get some stopgap performance. It wasn't something that lasted very long. Those planes would have been insanely difficult to fly. For the reasons you're talking about. Oh, that's cool, Baron. Neat. The B-29 was obsolete very, very quick. Yep. The interesting thing, guys, if you really want to know, the kind of end, I'll call it the top of the tech tree for World War II research and development is the B-52 and the Tu-95, interestingly enough, which basically are related. Both of those designs stem from the B-29. That's like the upper echelon of like World War II style strategic bombing. Like that's where the World War II tech tree like technically tops out, right? Because without the B-29 and the B-50, you wouldn't have the B-47. And without the B-47, you wouldn't have the B-52. All the innovations that came from a B-52 came from World War II R&D. So I would call that the top, like personally, me, armchair World War historian here, would call that the top of the tech tree. We still use B-52s for what it's worth. You know, that's just my opinion. Anyway, next bit of news here. Dan, that's super cool though that you worked on those P2s. Anyway, Chris posted this. Interesting. SpaceX is looking to hire a propulsion systems engineer responsible for designing, analyzing, building feed line systems to feed Raptor engines. Any idea why the engines were mounted on such large pylons on the B-47? Because there's two of them. We love this stuff. 5 stars. Right on. Right, 3350 radials and Pratt & Whitney J34s. I think that's right. Yeah, that sounds correct. The Wasp Major. Oh, boy. A tremendously immersive, fast-paced environment. You'll be expected to own large business outcomes and experience a rate of personal and professional growth that is unmatched literally anywhere else. I've only read about stuff like that, literally. English majors just went, ah ha ha. All right. Are there any English majors watching this stream? Maybe. What's up, dudes? I'm a grammar Nazi too, for what it's worth. I have to read these articles all day, and dude, the amount of fragments in these sentences piss me off. Anyway. Responsible for the design, development, and testing of feed line systems that feed liquid methane and liquid oxygen into Raptor engines through all phases of flight. Perform structural analysis on parts and components to ensure the feed system survivability. Woo! We'll nerd out about him if I meet you. I might have a spare piston for you if you want one. I mean, yeah, kind of. So, I don't think that's a coincidence that SpaceX is looking to hire an engineer responsible for the exact thing that caused the last two starships to explode. EJ, go buy a garden hose from Walmart and go into the office, slam it on the desk, and say, "I'm your man." I don't know if this means somebody got canned, but somebody may have gotten fired for Flight 8 failing. As far as I know, Mark has already executed some engineers. Yeah. Yeah, something like that. But EJ, didn't they eliminate most of the feed lines on Raptor 3? You still need fuel and oxidizer lines, Zubaski, and unfortunately, the fuel lines are being a bit problematic. This post looks like a scam. Oh, yeah? How so? What do you think, Nick? The best employee is no employee. Oh, gosh. But if you hear me out, Bluetooth Raptors, my God, you should work for SpaceX. It says apply now. Do it. I mean, they're telling you. What's the qualifications for this? A bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering, aerospace engineering, structural engineering, or other engineering discipline. Yeah, I don't have that. Okay. 1+ years experience in mechanical or structural design analysis, modeling, and drafting. Yeah, I don't have that either, unless Kerbal counts, in which case I have a lot of that. If Kerbal counts, I'm very qualified for this position. You will make functioning feedback systems, or I will have you sent to the front. I'll vouch for you. Make you some fake diplomas too. Nah, I'm not gonna lie. You know, I don't want to lie. I'll just say, look, I'm good at playing Kerbal. I've beaten the Kraken into submission multiple times. All right, that should count for something, man. Maybe if SpaceX contracted with the makers of those fancy insulated cups to build vacuum jacketed fuel lines, they've had better luck. Oh, boy. Qualifications. Could you fix our rocket feed issue? 59 Ford transmission? You're hired. Yep. Yeti fuel lines, man. Yeti fuel lines. It's orange. I guess the Starship hiring freeze is for everything except this job. Burbaps. Makes you wonder how long until Flight 9. Yeah, this raises a couple of questions, Joe, doesn't it? Guys, I'm going to go ahead and say that my theory that SpaceX already has a fix for this is probably not accurate. Unless, I mean, this is a propulsion systems engineer. This is designing. So, hey, babe. How you doing?
I'm fine, how are you?
I'm good. SpaceX is hiring a propulsion systems engineer to work on fuel lines.
Oh, gee, I wonder why.
Yeah, I know. That's weird, right?
That's kind of funny.
Yeah. How you doing?
Okay.
Yeah?
Are you gonna, should I go to bed without you, or?
Yeah.
Alright.
Well, the weather isn't looking good for the launches again, so I'll keep you in the loop.
Oh, I didn't know there were more launches. Okay.
Yeah, there's Sphere X and Punch, the 2 missions that scrubbed from last night.
Alright.
And then the Starlink 12-21. I know you're psyched for that.
Ah, that's my favorite Starlink.
Right? Right? Who doesn't get hyped for a Starlink launch?
Alright.
Are you okay? Is everything all right?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Oh, yeah? Please tell me more about this fineness that you're going through right
I'm not
now.
gonna do it on stream?
So you're not fine.
What am I gonna tell chat? I miss you, and now you've been gone the past 2 nights. You were gone for 2 weeks, and now you're gone for 2 nights. And I just had to live without my baby. Yeah.
Bless you? Bless you? What was that? You had that great performance and then you sneezed.
It's okay.
We're almost done with space news. I'd probably take a break before the launches. It's not the same, chat. How dare you? It's okay. It's okay. I love you. I love you. Wow. 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 Roll me to bet on you applying, then go with her. No, don't backseat my marriage, Flykin.
No,
Piss off.
no.
Don't backseat my marriage. You rolled an 8 anyway. All right, what am I rolling? Oh. Well, you guys
Wait.
didn't see that roll. Hold on. So,
Does that mean you don't hang out with me?
yep. That's what that means. That sucks.
It's gonna go try then, I guess.
What about Sphere X and Punch, dudes? I want to watch these launches with you.
Over me.
Cover them tomorrow? Hell no. Sphere X and Punch is awesome.
What time is Sphere X and Punch? It's not a big deal.
11. You'll be in bed anyway.
Yeah, that's true.
So what I'm saying is we could go watch television for a little while and I can come back in like 2 hours.
Okay.
I was going to play Workers.
Oh, no, screw that. Hang out with me instead of Workers.
Why did I say that? Well, you know what they say. Wood doesn't grow on trees.
What?
Wait. No. No, it's got to be your bowl. I can get a good look at a butcher by sticking my head up his butt, but no, I'd rather take the beef's word for no. I can get a good look at a T-bone by sticking my head up a butcher's butt. No, it's got to be your bowl. Chad, I gotta go. I gotta go. I will be back in 2 hours. Anyway, yeah, SpaceX is looking for a propulsion engineer. I don't think they have the fuel line problem completely figured out, but they'll figure it out because they're SpaceX and because they're awesome. I gotta go. I will see you back for launch coverage for Sphere X and Punch in about 2 hours, okay? Okay, I gotta, you know. I gotta go. Bye. Thank you very much for watching. If you don't want to stay up for Sphere X and Punch and Starlink 12-21,
Who wouldn't want to stay up for Starlink 12-21?
right? I'll see you all tomorrow. Okay? But I will be back in a couple hours for coverage. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you in a little bit. Bye-bye.